Dude, there is. There's still a high guard stream elements thing. Dude, should I keep that just for the bit? Like a year from now, someone will just notice that, nah, no free ads. No free ads. Honestly, it frustrates me knowing that a lot of these companies that do these ads, they know, like, for example, if you look at like channel banners, so like beneath my stream, I can't see this on the stream I'm at right or screen I'm at right now, but uh they're like, we want a panel banner image or a chatbot message are two really popular ones, and it's because they know that so many streamers forget to take them down after the stream. Like, usually my panel banner lasts until the next panel banner I have to put up. So they get a bunch of free advertisement. Max, thoughts on the U.S. hockey team? Oh, I haven't seen the score yet today. I was busy. Valentine's Day shit. Look up USA Olympics hockey. Scores? Is it not over yet? Where to... Olympic hockey scores. 5-3. Oh, that's terrible. I saw the one goal that like went in from the neutral zone. Have you already done DPS? No, I haven't. No, dude, this has been this 30-day stretch has been the most ill I've ever been in my life. I had none of them have been bad. Actually, maybe that's not the right way to put it. Like I've had bronchitis and then that turned into pneumonia before. That was only 2 weeks, and that was significantly worse than the month I've had. I've basically just had now in total 3 to 4 day very mild sicknesses. None of them were very bad at all. But that's just never happened to me before, ever. I've just in my entire I usually get like a little cold like once a year. It's the worst thing that ever happens to me. Outside of like bronchitis that one time. So yeah, I had like a little cold like a month ago, and then like a week after that I got a different one. And then I was good for a week, and then my girlfriend got sick. And then I had a very mild concussion. And then now, a week after that, I have something very minor. I've had it for 2 days, and my worst symptom is like, I guess I could say my throat feels a little swollen. Like, I don't have a sore throat. I'm not coughing. I'm not sneezing. I don't even really feel fatigued. It just, the only thing I could describe is maybe when I swallow it, like, feels like I have to try a little extra hard to do that. I don't even know what that would mean, but, yeah. It feels like if I were to talk for a long time, I might lose my voice. Maybe is another way of describing it. Proceeds to yap on stream. Well, so about that, I need to get this video done. So yesterday, 2 days ago, I meant to go live and do a UI stream. Basically, a content idea is like, I'm just going to install all the really popular UIs in the WoW space. And, you know, maybe rate them. Less interested in rating them because it's subjective and more just like showing the user experience. Like, hey, if you want to use this guy's UI, here's how easy it is to set up. Here's what you have to do. This one is paid. Here's how that works. Here's what you're actually paying for. Like, here's how it compares to other ones. Just that, I guess, because I think this is a pretty interesting time in WoW where a lot of people are either changing their UI or looking for a new solution to what they've used before because of all the add-on changes. But yeah, I just got sick again, and I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to do this today. I feel like it would just be bad. And then now we're getting to the point where I've been kind of delaying doing my tier list video, waiting for more tuning, waiting until the last moment I can make it to where I feel like it will be relevant before early access. I know some people wanted it before pre-patch, but like I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a meme, in my opinion. Like, I feel like you're just making a video to make it. Like, it wouldn't actually be that helpful. So yeah, I was thinking about when I was going to do this, and it occurred to me that I have no time. So pre-patch comes out on the 26th. This is a huge video that takes multiple days to edit. So it has to be done realistically by like the 23rd. Now, my next couple days are very interesting. My mom comes in town tomorrow, W Mom. So I'm going to be spending some time with my mom. But unfortunately, while my mom is here, I'm also going to have to be doing Team Liquid content shoots for the Race to World First. That will be Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And then on Thursday of next week, it is my birthday plus Fellowship is coming out. So I'm going to be playing Fellowship all day, every day for a couple of days where I'm not going to want to do this video. So I realized today and tomorrow are kind of the only days I'm going to be able to do it. So I had to like carve out some time today, which I was originally not planning on doing because it is Valentine's Day. And then tomorrow I'll have to finish it with DPS. I don't think my throat will be good for doing all of it in one day. So we'll do that. At least you got sick now and not during the race. I mean, okay, so if you would have told me that 2 sicknesses ago, I would have been like, dude, you're so right. If you ever want to get whatever's going around, you want to get it before the race. So you're less likely to infect people, and you're less likely to get sick yourself. But I don't know. Now I'm a little less confident with that because now I've gotten sick with what I assume is 3 separate illnesses within 30 days. Part of me is like, okay, well, now I'm immune to fucking everything. I ain't catching shit. But now I'm less confident in that because I just keep getting sick, and I guess it's like when it rains, it pours. Like, this has never happened to me before, so maybe it'll just fucking keep happening. Like, my immune system will just be worn the fuck out. Max, in one of the video with Ashes, they said your org got paid 300K. I think that's not correct. I have no idea what you're talking about right now, but you're saying Ashes of Creation paid Team Liquid 300,000? What did Team Liquid ever do an activation with Ashes of Creation? Not Team Liquid, the WoW guild. We've never done anything with Ashes of Creation. He used Team Liquid as a reason to try to get money from an investor. Oh, I might want to watch that. I mean, that whole thing's just a fucking scam anyway. Any news that comes out about that game, I saw it on Twitter today. They were like, the owner of this game, or the lead developer, was like siphoning money from investors. And I was just like, you know, surprised Pikachu face. Like, I just feel like it was just so obvious that, like, nothing that comes out about that game will surprise me. I feel like all of that felt like that was what was happening. And they said Team Liquid took it. Wait, what? What? I mean, I guess but why would they pay Team Liquid? I need to watch this. Why would they pay Team Liquid 300K? I'm so confused. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, usually when we've gotten paid, Team Liquid's gotten paid a ton of money by MMOs before to have us play the MMO, like the WoW Guild. Like Terrace Land and Crystal of Atlan, those kind of things, like sponsor deals, right? That's where you might see a large amount of money go into the guild, but the game is getting something out of it. I don't know how that game would have gotten, or Team Liquid would have gotten 300K from Ashes of Creation if we never heard anything about playing Ashes of Creation. He was lying his ass off to investors. Oh, he was. Oh, so you're saying Team Liquid wasn't paid 300K? You said that this guy said this. The known scammer and liar said that Team Liquid got paid 300K as an example to someone, but we don't have any proof of whether that happened. I mean, okay, that seems like it makes a lot more sense, because I'm assuming if Ashes of Creation is an MMO and they paid Team Liquid 300K, that would have something to do with us, right? Like anything MMO Team Liquid related is directly involving us, which we would have heard about that or, done something to get paid $300,000, right? We might do some stuff today. We might do some DPS today if we have time. The goal is to make tomorrow and today the same amount of time. Just need to get through them both. Also, I kind of want to look at the patch notes and stuff. Who do you have lined up to talk to? Oh, you know better than that. Maybe you don't, actually? I don't know. Rank Windwalker S tier so I can feel good about myself. Actually, let me go ahead and just run through those real quick. I know there was big changes yesterday. I saw a few takes about it, but I haven't read them myself. Which one is it? Tettles died level 18 in hardcore. W. Or L? L maybe? However you're feeling about that. Dude, one thing that we talked about on the podcast was Dorky was talking about how bad the class tuning is, and I felt like I swear I was having deja vu, because I've been this person before too, where I've been like, guys, I feel like no one's talking about how the class balance is so bad right now going into the expansion. Like, tuning is so bad, we need huge tuning. And I've been that person before, and one second, I'm just gonna wait for my dog to stop drinking. Can't think. A thirsty Yorl. What I was saying was I don't worry about it anymore, because I feel like every WoW season is tuned like roughly the same. Like in any season in my memory when it comes out, at least regarding rating, it's always like, it's never amazing, but it's like, it's WoW tuning. There's a couple things that are OP. If they're too OP, they get like instantly nerfed. Like, very few examples of that, but that happens. There are things that are insanely bad. There are things that, and then most things are fine. And if you look at like raid single target, that's tuned really well. But then Mythic Plus is obviously its own thing and has so many things that get you in a group besides just damage that are not tuned well. But like, it's just what it is. Basically, if you were to do like a tier list of how good the WoW tuning is, and it was like amazing, great, or fine, and then like there was, I don't know, any amount of ranks below that, it's always fine or better than fine. It's never like worse than fine. It always just ends up being fine, you know. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm just gonna go with it. It doesn't seem good now. And it's probably just gonna be fine. So I don't, and maybe that's why a lot of people don't really get super up in arms about it when I've gotten up in arms about it in the past, because I feel like most people just assume it's gonna end up being like pretty normal, and they're probably right. Also, like when people are talking about good or bad tuning, I feel like you're talking to people that have different like incentives. For example, if someone is a one class main and they just care about how their one class stacks up to everything else, if they're not the best healer or whatever, or maybe their specific class, let's just say for the sake of argument, the class that they care about is actually horrible, they might be like, this tuning is terrible. And for them, that's true. But it's possible that everything else is actually, you know, it's relatively an overall really well-tuned patch, which often includes a class or spec getting shafted, because that's just how many specs are in this game. And the one person might be screaming, this is terrible tuning, and to them, that's correct, but looking at it in the grand scheme of things, the tuning might actually be really good, you know? Or the opposite might be true. This tuning is amazing, and it's because your class is OP, right? There's very few people, I think, who look past the scope of, like, just what they care about and look at what everything is tuned as if you had no bias towards anything, right? So that's why talking about tuning also, in general, is just, like, really weird. Are you expecting another tuning before midnight? Before the expansion or before the season? So that's another thing we talked about on the podcast, was when you're going into a new like patch in the middle of an expansion, so like 11.1 or 11.2, the timeline for when tuning needs to feel somewhat normal is like pretty close to the season, because the actual season drops like right after the patch. But like in an expansion, I'm a lot less worried about tuning specifically for a few reasons. Number one, the class designers, the people who are responsible for tuning, they are still working on season 1 until season 1 is released. And so they're going to be tuning these classes for the next, there's more than a month from right now until any of the tuning matters at all. And they're going to be doing that the whole time. There will be multiple patch notes after the expansion goes live for tuning, even with no new information from what people are actually doing. And then maybe the most important thing is we have a Heroic Week. It's one of the best things about Heroic Week is it just gives them a free week to get a bunch of information of people actually playing the game at max level and tuning their classes, right? Raid class balance has been great the last 2 seasons at least. Yeah, yeah. I mean, raid balance is always really good, but also raid is like really easy. Like single target is definitely the most important thing, and then most fights, it's really rare that there's a fight that's actually pure single target. Usually there's one of those a tier, if any. Basically your raid profile is like single target plus, like if you guys have ever had like a talent build that you select that isn't a Mythic Plus build, or a pure single target build, but it's like a pure single target build that like takes maybe one like really efficient AoE talent or two. That's like that's like a raid build. Unless you're one of those classes that's super cracked and just plays your Mythic Plus build in raid and it happens to do the most single target for you, which is really good. And those classes are often very OP for that. Yeah, your raid balance is like a lot easier to incorporate, mainly because the AoE that exists in raid isn't uncapped, or if there is uncapped AoE in raid, it's not an important part of any fight. In Mythic Plus, it's almost entirely defined by a class's ability to uncap AoE. So when you remove the entire uncap AoE situation, it's actually really easy, or relatively a lot easier to balance classes. Like if you were to look at, you know, damage on any specific raid boss, like how close the classes are to each other is like very good and has been for a very long time. There's some examples of that not being true though, and it's usually fight specific. So think of like Brood Twister, which is just like add spawn on a really specific timer, and like some classes just have timers for that and others don't, and those classes are going to like majorly outperform, but those fights are like not common. Is all of your income coming from WoW related stuff like Race World First and streaming? My income is like I get paid from Team Liquid, I get paid from Twitch, I get paid from YouTube, I get paid from sponsored deals from my agency, which is like you can kind of say that's through Twitch or just maybe a combination of Twitch and YouTube. That's like most of my income, yeah. And also my money makes money, which is income too. Like when you invest money. All right, what did they do? What was crazy yesterday? So I was playing a little bit of Unholy. It was really fun. We're tuning damage for because diseases caused deal more damage than intended. Oh, they nerfed Pestilence. Okay. That's probably a pretty huge nerf, but it was really, really strong, right? Epidemic damage reduced, Graveyard damage reduced, Magus buffed, nerfed Sand Lane. Okay. Maybe that's a rider angle. Some people said it's about 20% for all the major specs. I mean, honestly, I feel like Blizzard pushing Unholy to play Rider of the Apocalypse is the move because it just doubles down on the bit, you know, of what you're already doing. Okay, buff Moonkin. Nerfed Devour, buffed Havoc. I actually really wonder what kind of stuff is going to happen with Devourer this season. I think it's actually kind of significant. What I mean by that is, let's just say there's a lot of Demon Hunter players already. I don't know how many new Demon Hunter players there's going to be because Devourer is a spec that's available. And they're like, I'm going to play this class now for the first time because of this new spec. Maybe like ranged players, right? But what I think a lot of Devour is going to be is, let's just say Devour is stronger than Havoc in this upcoming tier. I think that's probably fair to assume because anytime they come out with a new spec or a new class, it's really, really fucking good. Or anytime there's a rework to anything, historically, the last 3-4 years since Dragonflight, those classes are really fucking strong. So let's assume that's the case. You're going to be seeing a lot of melee players play ranged. And that's just going to be, like, really interesting. Like, ranged and melee are truly very different. I think, honestly, ranged to melee is as different from, like, one role to the next. Like, there's a difference between, like, tanking and DPSing. Like, your skill set, at least, It's just like a new thing you have to get good at anytime you're incorporating casting. Now, obviously, Devour is made to be like a little bit more mobile, has some very few melee elements. Um, I just think it's going to be really interesting. Anytime you see a class have to go to a different role, you see a bunch of weird shit. When you see Hunter players feel like they have to play Survival at the end of Shadowlands, you saw some people get exposed for not really knowing how to play in melee. If you guys are a melee player in a relatively good guild, at least to me, it's always been really obvious when someone is like a fucking pylon in melee, especially when there's like raids that have mechanics that make it difficult to have a lot of melee. When you have someone that doesn't really know how to move well as a melee player, it's like extremely noticeable. That can kind of be true in range too. It's just something to keep an eye on where I think you might just knowing that you're going to have a lot of people. Historically, anytime there's been a class where DPS players now are playing a spec they don't normally play because it's so good or because it's just better or new, and it's range to melee or melee to ranged. Usually there's just a lot of people that are not very good at that. So it'd be interesting. Does Devour get counted as melee when making a raid comp? Depends on what you're considering, right? Like, when does melee and range actually matter? If you're talking about a mechanic where you need to be spread out, you're not going to count them as melee. Like, hey, we can't do this boss because it has a mechanic where you have to spread by 5 yards, and if we had like 15 melee, for example, that would be ridiculous and really bad. So we need to add some range. A mechanic like that. Not every fight even has those mechanics. There are plenty of fights where you can actually play like as you could have all melee if you wanted to, and then there are some fights where that would be horrible. In those types of situations, Devour would be counted as ranged. But also, if you had to like split your raid, there's multiple fights this raid where you split your raid. If you ever have to do that, I feel like Devour could be considered as both because it's like a really mobile ranged, right? Like for example, let's say you're in a 20-man raid and you have to send 10 people to one side and 10 to the other, and it actually makes sense that you want your melee to be in one group and your range to be in another. You would want you would probably if unless you actually had 8 melee or 7 melee to where like you could naturally do this without Devourer, you would probably put them in melee, because if you needed anyone to go in melee, it would be like what? BM Hunter, Devour, or Devastation would be like, or Og would be like the like 4 specs. You would primarily be like, okay, you're just part of the melee camp now, and what that means is like you're just really mobile. Also, there are certain mechanics that only go on ranged or only go on melee, and in which case they would be considered ranged. Would you count Void Scarred more melee and Annihilator more ranged when making the raid comp? No. Raid comps aren't like that simple. I don't know. Like, you're not making a comp for a fight, you're making it for a specific mechanic. Like, unless there's a mechanic that makes you care about melee or range. Like, hey, we want more melee for this. Hey, we want more range for this. Hey, this fight has a ton of movement, so like non-movement, or range classes that are bad at movement are not going to be good here. Which does not happen on every fight. Like some fights, most fights, I just don't think that matters. Like you just bring whatever does the most damage, in a way. Maybe you want a split of the types of damage, like burst versus consistent and stuff like that. But like you just want the things that do the most damage. Like when you're making a raid comp, it kind of just depends. Like there are mechanics where you could look at them as either, and it's not a general thing. Max, have you seen the kick tracker and Omni CD add-ons that break tainted values? Yeah. Are you talking about the stuff where it looks at like whether you've kicked an enemy and it says in the game, like when you've interrupted something, it says like interrupted by you? It just uses that information to put your kick on a cooldown. Omni CD just works as well. W. Yeah, I mean, as we've been saying, the more and more time goes on, the more like people are gonna create the things that have used to existed, because two things are happening. Number one, add-on developers are getting more used to what the new set of rules are, but also Blizzard has walked back some things little by little, and every time they do that, new things are possible to be made. I honestly think like you can expect like a game-breaking new add-on that, no, not game-breaking, but something that does what has been done before but you thought was gone. Something like that could be announced like every day from now until like next like season 2. It does use that logic, but also uses more sketchy logic. It passes values out of Lua to C++, which doesn't know about the tainted values, and then passes it back. The good part is I don't even know. I know C++ is a different coding language, but like, yeah, who knows? I don't know. I just get told what's possible. But you better believe it. There is a 100% chance that there is a scandal during this race where at least the fans of any of our guilds are going to accuse another guild of cheating because they have some tech that they don't understand. And the main reason for that is all of this stuff just looks like shit. Like, it doesn't even look clean. Like, if it looked like shit you've been used to seeing, like, some of it just looks like so fucking weird. Yeah. It's gonna be great. Please beg, we have to stop calling one half-working shitty workaround for one feature of an add-on type things as the whole add-on is back. I mean, as long as it brings back some functionality that you want. Yeah, it kind of is like that, right? Yeah, they've backed themselves into a really interesting corner where their whole philosophy of, like, we don't want things to exist in add-ons that, like, give you better information than if you just had base UI. And, like, every single day that goes by, there's more and more things that are just absolutely advantages by having add-ons again, which is kind of making all of this, I don't know, it's a pretty bad look. I think they didn't execute this well. And maybe if you were to go back to anything, I think wasn't the general sentiment, I think all of us knew that this add-on shit was going to happen at some point. I mean, they literally did that interview with Dratnos and I think the idea from everyone was like, okay, they're going to do this. But didn't everyone think they were going to, like, work on their UI a lot and then do this? That was what everyone thought, right? Like, we're going to get the things in place and make sure it works, and then we're going to juice this stuff. We literally talked to these people, and that's what Dratnos and I's strong opinion was. Like, this will be years from now. This will be Last Titan or later. And then they were just like, let's just fucking do it now before any of this shit is ready, and then we'll try as hard as possible to make it ready. I think if anyone had the take when they first announced these changes that they were doing this too soon, I just don't see how there could be an argument that you were wrong. It's just objectively they did this too fast. They probably know that now, but yeah, they bit off more than they could chew, I think. Really surprising, honestly. Because there wasn't like even like a super pressing reason to have this done right now. I don't think it's going to matter too much for their bottom line, though. Like, this affects our community majorly, but like pretty much anyone who cares about this shit is still relatively a like very small part of the game. So, I don't know how much it'll matter. It's just this specific community, it just feels really stupid and bad. It's going to keep getting better, though. It's not going to get any worse than it is right now, right? Like, it's going to, as time goes on, if anything, there's more and more. If you're already an add-on user, like, more stuff is going to be available that you thought was dead that is now somehow working, right? Like, the cooldown manager isn't getting worse than it is right now. It's a lot better on beta than it is on PTR, for example. Like, your options that are not add-ons are going to continue getting better, and the add-ons that are available are going to get better at a rapid pace because they're all like starting from fresh again, right? So naturally, you know. But yeah, this first season or however long after might be really bad. Clipped and shipped to Ragebait on Reddit. What, me saying that I feel like that's not a hot take. Is what I'm saying crazy? What part of what I said is crazy? I feel like this is all bad right now for our community. but this is as bad as it's going to be, I think, right? Like, wouldn't it be relatively safe to assume that add-ons are going to become more sophisticated and better from what they are right now, and also the in-game stuff is going to get better over time? That right? People don't want to hear that right now. They just want to rage. Well, that's fine, but okay, yeah, maybe it's just that. All right, anyways, I'm gonna go grab a drink real quick, and then we'll get started with this shit. Why did they nerf details? That makes zero sense. Wait, what did they do to details recently? Or do you mean like if you had details in the past, it was better than it is now? Which there's an easy answer to that. Kind of want to browse through the rest of this stuff real quick. Seems like the major thing from this though is the things that were like really overperforming got like pretty massive nerfs. The damage meter in general is atrocious. Yeah. Yeah. I just don't know why they felt like it had to happen now. You know? Like, I can get, like, oh, we want people with the base UI to feel like they have something that's closer to add-ons. But you could have done that without removing add-ons. You could have waited. Like, one thing is, I guess, well, this goes contrary. Some of you guys don't believe this, but, like, I believe everything they've added to the game now because they're removing add-ons. So, like, the damage meter, the cooldown manager. Let's just use those as, like, primary examples. I think both of those are going to be significantly better in 2 years than they are now. Or let's just not even use the word significantly. I think they're going to be a higher quality by the time next expansion comes around than they are right now. Apparently that's a hot take. To me, that seems pretty obvious. But like, I feel like it would make way more sense to just do these changes later when the things in game have more time to develop, get bug tested and fixed and whatever. Yeah, it's just like why specifically now? Like this has to be now. They didn't even market it as like as a thing to like the old heads, you know, like the people that would really like stuff like that. They didn't even market it. Like why now? Max, are you going to release the liquid built add-ons you will be using for the race world first after the last boss kill? I'm not sure. I'm potentially no. I'm not in charge of stuff like that. Well, I guess I technically am. If I like really wanted that to happen, I guess we could. But most likely, the people who make it and spend a lot of time on it, if we feel like we have something that it would take other guilds some time to do and they don't have it right now, we wouldn't release anything. We've released like weak aura packages and stuff in the past. As far as like releasing that stuff again, I don't know. Like the people that actually did that before aren't here, so I don't know. I don't know. Well, let's see how the tier plays out, and then we'll figure it out. Regardless of whether we do or not, I'm sure people will make what we are using if they don't have access to it for the same reasons you would want it, so it would be available in some way. Jack said just finished key. Okay. Gonna do it soonish. Are you still keying? Fill me in on Bart, please. We just went in a different direction for tech and weak aura. Well, I guess weak auras aren't really a thing anymore, but like reminders and stuff like that. But then the other day on stream, I said he's no longer with us, meaning the guild, but that kind of sounded like he died, and now you guys love it, and it's a bit. Max, do you think there will be a weird situation where the whole race revolves around a scuffed unofficial weak auras version? I can tell you right now that every guild in the race is going to have their own version of whatever weak auras were for these raids, without question. Then there's some things that are still unable to be done that weak auras could do, specifically dynamically assigning things. But even then, there's some ways around making that work. So yeah, I mean, as far as the race getting resolved, or like revolve around that, or like someone winning because they have that, I don't know how likely that is, but it is certainly possible. I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't think anyone hopes that happens, really. You know? But, you know, I don't know. It'll probably be fine. Okay. Dogs are barking. Are you more concerned with boss balancing this tier or the multi-raid layout? No. If you are making weak aura like add-ons in Blizzard simultaneously as having to make raids easier because of no weak auras, do you think the race will be a lot easier this season? No, I think the race is going to be pretty normal. Like, there's a couple things you could point to for that. Like, let's say, like, the Gallywix thing. Like, Gallywix didn't have a dungeon journal, and it happened to be, like, super fucking easy. And I think, at least my theory for that is I think Blizzard assumed that figuring out a boss with no dungeon journal was going to be a lot harder for us than it was. There's one thing Blizzard does, and they've said this before to us and publicly, is they don't actually know what we're capable of doing. They have no way to test it. So, like, on bosses like Queen Ansarek, for example, they have a version of this boss. They make sure the entire boss works. They get an idea of what the difficulty should be, and then they test it, and it's completed by their testers, and then they just buff it by a fucking shitload because they don't know what we're capable of doing that their testers are not. So, because of that, they create raid bosses in some cases that they do not know are possible. And they never want it to be, if possible, like Gallywix was a huge mistake. Like, they never want it to be too easy. If anything, it's too hard and they'll nerf it. Knowing that they use that philosophy, I think the thing that's easy to bet on is that they're going to make the raid very hard and probably no different than they make it now. And if they run into the issue where it's like clearly too difficult with whatever tools we have available, they will nerf it. But if we're able to do it, we're able to do it. As far as like how quickly it'll be nerfed or anything like that, I don't know. But I've thought from the very beginning this will most likely just feel like a normal WoW raid, especially because most fights, like, I mean, Fractalus is like the craziest not like example to disprove this, but like most fights you don't actually need weak auras except for very specific mechanics, and you could make fights around not needing those things. Like Dimensius is a great example, one of the best bosses ever, one of the hardest bosses ever, and outside of the weak aura in phase 1 that tells you to go like left, back, right, or in front when you're putting the reverse gravities down. That outside of that, there's like zero need for weak auras on that fight. Like it would have changed nothing in the progression of that. There was no like weak auras were carrying the fight. Outside of it was just your UI. Like they were doing nothing. It's a non-weak aura fight. And the opposite of that is like Fractalus, or the opposite of that could be something like Nexus King last phase, right? For positioning and stuff. But you can make really, really difficult raid fights without the single mechanic that needs some kind of crazy assignment tool. I don't think there's anything in this raid upcoming, these raids, I guess I should say, that feels like you would need an assignment aura for it. So if that's the case, I don't know why they would necessarily make it a lot easier, but I guess it's possible. The soaks getting role assigned seemed like the type of a thing for a no weak aura design. Yeah, exactly. The reverse gravities for like P2 and P3, yeah. Stream halfway. Oh yeah, we're gonna start the list in a second. I just needed Automatic Jack says he has a sponsor stream for the next 45 minutes. Okay, so we'll do tanks first. Okay, we'll start tanks whenever you're ready. Also, I might get Dratnos too, because want to do tank tier list with Dork. Or are you busy on this lovely day? Lovely because Valentine's. Let me get this ready. So tier maker. Is there a new healer ain't ready for 45? But you can finish your key. Let's not the War Within, Midnight WoW classes. Maybe this works. It basically just needs to include Devourer, which most old stuff doesn't. Wait, is that the Devourer icon? Oh, it is. And this is high quality too. Sweet. All right, so I just have to duplicate this. I have to make this half my screen here, and then label 1 Mythic Plus and 1 Raid. Wait, I've used this before because it says tanks. That's fun. Wait, Tiercraft? What the fuck is Tiercraft? Oh, look at that. They made like a shows the notepad you're hiding right now. What was this? It's titled Fractalus, but I think that's just because it's the first time first thing I typed on this. Why did I list all these bosses? Was it worst raid bosses? Yeah, some of these are notoriously not well liked by certain people. Okay, yeah. And the other one is guilds that won 4 consecutive raids in WoW's history. because someone in chat asked if we won next tier and won 4 in a row, how many guilds had actually done that? And the answer is 3. Nihilum, Method, Mop to Wad. But that's only if you include, or that's only if you assume that like they didn't win Blackrock Foundry, or they won Blackrock Foundry but lost Highmaul, and it's like whether you count Highmaul as a raid or just part of the Blackrock Foundry tier, and the same thing with them losing Heart of Fear. And then Method from Legion to BFA won 4 in a row. They won Tomb, Antorus, Uldir, and then Battle of Zarlor. Wait, and didn't they win? They won Eternal Palace too, right? So that was 5 as well, right? Oh no, the reason we didn't include Eternal Palace is because they lost Crucible of Storms to pieces, which is also interesting. I don't know, so something like that. Yeah, that's it. Notepad was a bit. Okay. Is this, am I using the dark reader thing? Is that why this looks this way? No, it's off. Why is the text, I feel like this looks worse than Tier Maker. Right? Nah. I mean, who fucking cares? We'll just do it. I guess this makes it a little simpler because you can do this. Yeah. That looks giga vibe coded. Okay. What does vibe code mean? Does that mean someone coded something with AI? Is that just all it means? Oh. Where should my overlay go? Overlay should go over here. There we go. Take chat out. I'll leave it here. Too many tiers. How do you remove tiers? Here we go. Crazy. Why is it have a white background? Can you change that? It just looks bad. It's hard to see. Can you not change this? Yeah, just it looks worse than Tier Maker, right? Like this is just way easier to see. Yeah. Yeah. White on light blue is just terrible. It would be nice to actually see all the tanks and stuff in one place, but what can you do? Alright, currently waiting on Dorky to finish a key. Dratnos hasn't responded, so we could just do Dorky. Or we could find some healers. Order the rolls before the call. No, there's no reason for that. What I want to ask these people? I'll just fucking YOLO it. Last tier. Midnight default UI. That is good. Who would I normally talk to with healers? Definitely Automatic Jack, but he's in the middle of a sponsored stream. Dorky is in a key. Let's see. What healers are you going to talk about anyway? I could get some other people on. Let's get Ellesmere here. Hey. Wanna talk Pally healer? Mega set, usually people are fans of. Wanna talk Mistweave? JB. Yeah, JB's fun. Wanna talk our Druid? The healer cat? Has he been even playing retail? Ooh, getting some responses. Oh, Meg said, I am out of state until the 17th, unfortunately. All right, gonna have to do a new Mistweaver. Or have Automatic Jack making it up. W. Waiting for some, I said I was gonna get, like a drink, and then I just didn't. I got busy cleaning stuff. Or do some DPS first. I could. I'm planning on doing that tomorrow. Although it is possible that I feel worse tomorrow, I guess. But I think it's unlikely. I think today will be the worst of it. What's also interesting is, I mean, this is gonna have to be updated a bit because I still think there's a decent amount of tuning that needs to be done. But yesterday was kind of interesting because a lot of classes got nerfed like a lot. I do think the way these people rank these end up being usually correct. What happens more often than not is the chat thinks a spec is way better than it is, and when the person on here ranks it lower, the chat just like gets mad at them. But more often than not, that person is more right than chat is. Are you making the comp prediction today too? I can. And beginning of expansion comp rankings are very funny because they're so wrong. Like, at least with like most tiers, you're basically just starting off at a baseline of like what was good in the last raid. Because after the first tier of an expansion, you like from the first tier to the last tier, like 70% of it doesn't change. Like based on whatever design decisions they make at the beginning, which are pretty major, that usually makes something good enough to be in or not good enough to be in. And then there's only minor changes around that. But like trying to guess the first tier is really interesting because it's we can delete this row too. Actually, people do always get healers wrong no matter what. Ooh, JB said he could. Okay, Dorky said me and JB available. Well, shit. Okay, well, they're in the same key. That makes sense. Let me go get a drink, and then I'll call one of them. All right, Colin Dork.
Yo, what up?
Yo, what beta key were you doing?
Seat of a triumvirate.
Wait, how did that one end up?
Terribly.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always really liked that dungeon.
Well, I mean, it wasn't the keys problem. It was more about me being on Blood DK as a problem.
Oh, I mean specifically, like, how did that dungeon turn out as a Mythic
Oh,
Plus key?
like that.
Yeah.
I see. I would say pretty all right, honestly.
Yeah, Seat was
I mean,
always
it's a
good.
completely different dungeon. It's like literally nothing like the original Seat, to be fair.
Well, the
They
original Seat
changed it
was
more
goated.
than most other dungeons.
All right, I'm excited to see it.
Are we calling JB2 or fuck him?
I mean, I'm gonna call him after, but I'm not gonna talk to him about tanks. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm probably gonna talk to him about Resto Druid after. Okay, so we can kind of start wherever you want. Actually, no, we're not gonna start wherever you want. We're gonna start where I want.
Okay.
We're gonna start with Blood DK. So
Okay, that's literally where I was gonna start too. So
great. Well, you just got off the key and you said it
yeah.
was because you were playing a Blood DK. Well, I actually want to start this with
Yeah.
just a simple question of how many buttons do you feel like you lost, if any? Is Blood DK a spec that feels like it
3,
got
maybe?
over pruned?
It feels the exact same, except you lost the bloat in the beginning of your rotation. So you went from doing somewhat of a nuclear launch sequence in order to get going, which in my opinion feels bad for Blood DK because, you know, as a Blood DK, you want to get all your plates spinning and then you want to get into the flow of hard striking and death striking, right? But in War Within, it was extremely annoying having to go into a poll and then you get your bone shields up, you get your D&D down, you put your Tombstone on cooldown, you put your Bone Storm on cooldown, you get your Reaper's Mark up, and then you can finally start playing the game. So they took away Bone Storm and Tombstone are the big ones.
But those were, do you feel like those were like fun, or at least Bone Storm was like a fun damage thing, at least, kind of. Do you feel like that was replaced at all? Or you missed that?
So we have Consumption now, which is what is it called? The channeling thing?
Empower?
Empower. It's Empower cast, yeah.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird. A lot of people don't like it for various reasons. I mean, as a Blood Kid, trying to channel an ability is kind of absurd. So that is like a replacement ability. But no, it doesn't necessarily feel worse overall. Because like Tombstone was a very whatever button, right? Like you never used Tombstone for its intended purpose of giving you an absorb shield. You always used it for the sake of CDRing and just to put on cooldown. Uh, Bone Storm also has always been a whatever button. I would have actually really liked it if they kept Bone Storm and made it actually impactful. But if
Yeah,
they
I've
did
always
neither of
liked
that,
it.
so yeah, so I don't think Bloody K really lost much going into midnight.
Okay, I mean, Blood DK has historically been like just an extremely crazy good raid tank and has always had its like huge issues in Mythic Plus. Is there anything that you feel like is changing in that way? Like, are they better at one than the other now, or do
No.
you feel like it's the same thing?
No, I mean Blizzard said that they intended on making the class less self-healing and more DR heavy, which didn't turn out
Haven't they
to
done
be
that? Haven't
anything
they
like that at
done that
all.
or said they've done that for
Yeah.
like, I swear it's happened so many times.
Yeah, it's literally a tale as old as time, and it's the exact same. It's still complete dog shit in M plus, and it's still all right in raid. I mean, like it's got the things that make it good in raid, right? Like AMS generally is really good at ignoring certain mechanics. Uh, Depth's Advance is always pretty solid. Being able to have AMZ and grip has always been good for raid. So it's like the same story, honestly.
Okay. Um, I guess just any free space to talk about it, like stuff you like or don't like before ranking it.
I liked the goals they had for Bloody K. I mean, I've always felt like they had the correct direction. Like in War Within, they did the whole Death Strike change, right? Where if you did two Death Strikes in a row, your second Death Strike didn't carry over the damage taken from the previous one. And it made sense why they were moving in that direction. It made sense why they nerfed Blood Shield. It made sense why they nerfed DK's healing and resource generation. But it never played out. I mean, it's kind of like the whole add-on situation or Private Orders, right? Like they had a noble goal. They wanted to make Bloody K more consistent in M plus, and they just never hit. The class has been completely terrible since Shadowlands. It was literally the last time it was good.
It was completely terrible since Shadowlands, and then it was terrible for like years before Shadowlands, like except for Legion, right? It was like Legion it was OP, Shadowlands it was OP, and outside of that, it's been terrible Mythic Plus every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although is worth mentioning, they were extremely OP. Like they were way, way, way better than anything else during those seasons. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, it just felt like Blizzard cared a lot less about balancing the game as tightly back then, and so it enabled Blood Decay to have opportunities where it was super OP. Like when we think about Legion, we had 20% leech, 45-second cooldown. It gave it to your entire party. And then we think about Shadowlands, where you just had like the most OP combination of Kyrian plus jail weapon plus tier set. And I just don't see a world where we have that anymore because the balance is so much tighter. Like Blizzard never goes that far.
yeah.
Just like strictly design wise, this class is just flawed for M plus at least.
Yeah, I mean, I at least if I could like defend, if I'm Blizzard and I'm defending that, I do think it is probably hard to do that because like the same thing that makes Blood DK get one shot in a Mythic Plus pool is the same reason why people love playing Blood DK in a way, right? The reactive gameplay, the like the decision making you make on that class and higher content is something that like most people would argue, and I used to argue for many years when I was tanking, like it's just the most fun tank to play, and most tanks at a high level would tell you that, especially raid tanks. And I think making the class not feel like that and then also making it tanky on pull is like impossible to accomplish or very very close, right? Because like that's kind of what makes it fun is you get owned and you have to like really greed out low HP death strikes. But if you are just really tanky, they either have to nerf your healing by a ton and then it would just be like another tank. It's the thing that makes it uniquely
Right.
Blood DK.
Yeah.
So like I I think it's almost impossible to solve clearly because they've been trying to for many years, like solve this problem without it just becoming another tank.
Yeah, I don't know what they can really do without removing the class fantasy of Bloody K. My suggestion has always been to give more runic power uses, because right now it's used strictly for death striking. But like,
Yeah.
say if they gave it a way to just like consume Bone Storm and you were like getting DR based off of the amount of mobs you were hitting, that'd be kind of nice.
Yeah,
Like the class just
yeah.
doesn't scale well.
That's kind of like Frost DK, right? Like you having the ability to not Frost Strike and instead press the other things at Avalanche. Like you have an ability
Yeah,
to spend runic power for AoE, like just a version of that for Blood DK.
yeah.
Okay, rank it. How good is it gonna be?
I mean, I feel like raid class or raid tank ranking has always been weird because it kind of depends on the other
Well,
classes.
yeah.
And I do think DK DPS is looking pretty solid. But if it wasn't for that, I'm probably just like A, just like your typical. It's good, but it's not crazy, and
Yeah, it's weird to rank it because like you could
it's probably what you would
if you're
resort
playing
to.
in a guild where the raid buff's already covered or the amount of grips you need already covered, you're less likely to play it because you're going to bring another thing. But it's like how well does it stand on its own merits? Like, would you tank on a Blood DK and it would be totally fine? The answer is yes, but also that's been true of every tank in every raid in the history of WoW. So, like, what are you even ranking at that point, right? You're like talking about things that make you special or better than that. So, yeah, I think A sounds fair.
Yeah, but
Uh,
also I guess another point to address is are we talking about like current tuning? Because there are tanks that are just straight up doing double Blood DK's damage and are just like significantly better in so many ways that it does not stand alone.
yeah. I think you have to. I know yesterday they had like a major balance patch where a lot of things that were like doing a ton of damage got nerfed pretty heavily, but some obviously not enough. Like we're I'm trying to get this out before early access when people choose their classes. Uh, but a lot is going to change after early access comes out before the season happens, and even after the first week of the season because there's a heroic week, right? So like a lot of this stuff
Yeah,
you might have to like we might have to update it or something, but I think for now the only thing you can do is base it off of the current information, right?
I'll just give it like a caveat. I guess I'll say so. Probably right now, I'd probably say Blood DK probably belongs in like B because there are certain tanks that are just pretty overtuned. I
Yeah.
know I talked a lot about tank damage on the Pod C, and right now, like some tanks are just doing unreal amounts of damage, which seems like something Blizzard will quickly nerf, which I hope not. Please, Blizzard, just let tanks do damage for once.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably just leave it in B, honestly,
I mean, that makes sense.
just
Let's
because
just
of how
say
other tanks
Warrior is
do better.
doing so much fucking damage that I'm just making this up. You haven't talked about Warrior yet. But like
Yeah,
let's say you were going to make Blood DK an A, if the difference between like whatever the best is, there's only so many ranks on the tier list, right? So like you would have to put it two tiers away even if you feel like it was A on its own, but because this thing's at the top and it's definitely two tiers better than Blood DK, this has to be B. Right? Like that logic makes sense.
yeah, because like we had situations like this happen in the past. I think Dragonflight Season 1 was one of them where Prot Warrior was just doing an absurd amount of damage and people were playing that at the highest level, even if it wasn't brought for specifically Battle Shout.
Yeah. What about Blood DK and M plus?
This shit stinks. I'll probably put in like C or Midnight Default UI, which is crazy ranking.
I thought it's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really don't think the gap is that big, so maybe I'll just put in C to be fair.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because like you realistically could play Blood DK in fairly high keys, and I'm never the type to just say like, oh, like this is unplayable. But it's certainly bad at the moment in all metrics. It's not good damage wise. Well, AoE damage is pretty good, but like single target damage is stinky. It's not good at living. It doesn't bring a raid buff. Its utility is kind of just like whatever. It's just your typical DK utility. So there's nothing really going for the class. I mean, like it's certainly capable of doing high keys. I just would not play it. It's not a reliable tank whatsoever. It's a great key for Resil keys, is what someone said in my chat earlier, and I think that's a good way of putting it.
Okay, that's a good reason
It's
to
not a
put it
reliable
above
tank.
Midnight Default UI. W. All right, I want to go to the other tank that's like less traditional in Guardian. So before talking about it at all, what is the button
Yeah.
situation from pruning with this class?
Okay, they actually made this class more complex compared to most other classes in this game.
Okay.
That they made, I think this is one of my favorite versions of Bear. I'm just gonna like straight up
Oh,
say
that
it.
makes me really happy.
Yeah, Dragonflight Season 2 was the only other time I would say Guardian was like fucking amazing when you actually had to think about how you spend your rage. Because like for all of Orphan, literally all you did was spam Iron for Thrash and Mangle. Nothing else. There's no reason to press Maul. There's no reason to press Raise. You literally just hit those same buttons over and over, and it was extremely boring and dog shit. I didn't like Bear at all. Like, in fact, Warfin was the only season that, or only expansion that I didn't play Bear Tank, because almost every expansion I play Bear Tank at least once, because it's like my most played character by far, right? And it was just not it in Warfin. So they took away the thing that made Ironfur do damage. So there's less of an incentive to hit Ironfur, and they added a ton of stuff to Maul, Raise, and Ravage, aka Massive Attack, which is what they used to call it back
Yeah,
in beta
that was a
Warfin.
fucking goated word.
So yeah, that was a fucking beast name. Yeah, they made Druid of the Claw good for once. And that's kind of cool. Like, I always thought Druid of the Claw was cool as hell, the idea of it. You also do an insane amount of damage with Feral Frenzy, which is what Heart of the Wild does now. Like, you actually just go into cat form and just fucking blow up a single target boss. But the class is kind of squishy at the moment. I don't like what they did with this class defensively. It's probably the class that is actually the squishiest outside of cooldowns, which is kind of weird to think about. Bear has always been traditionally a pretty good tank outside of cooldowns, but I'm pretty sure it's like actually the weakest tank outside of cooldowns now. You have classes like VDH that can like sustain better with just spikes, and same with Prot Paladin, and that's kind of weird.
Okay.
But yeah, the class does crazy amounts of damage right now. Is the TLDR, and it's pretty fun to play.
I feel like it's been a long time since bears have been like the top damn tank. Was it even that
Yeah,
was it in Dragonflight? Was it that season where they were like the top damn tank, or was it just because they were Mark of the Wild?
I think they've had times here and there where they do crazy single target for like raid when you can like dump all your rage into Maul and stuff, but yeah, the class has always been kind of lacking in the damage department.
Okay. I mean, I feel like you pretty much summed all of it up with that. Okay, you can probably rank it.
Raid, I want to say, oh man, I really want to put in crazy style, but I just feel like it might be squishy. I don't know. I mean, for non-race warfare guilds, it would definitely be in crazy style right now.
Well,
But
why
in
would it
race war
not?
first,
Why
I
would
don't
that
know
not
how.
be true in Race World First Guilds, right? Like, if I were to guess, Race World First Guilds are ones that are more likely to play a in quotes squishy tank because it does more damage because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
margins are higher, right? Like, it would actually be the other way around.
that is true. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll just put in crazy style for raid. Fuck it, why
All
not?
right, slam it.
I mean, the class is probably gonna get nerfed anyways. Fucking Blizzard.
Yep. All right, what about Myth Plus?
Put it in A. Yeah, it's a little bit weak defensively, honestly. I just find it too much of a liability unless you just play it extremely well. I mean, I think it's definitely
Is it
capable of
just
playing the
doesn't
highest
have
keys. It's
cooldown
also,
coverage? Is like doesn't have enough things to rotate in
yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah, and it's also a lot of its damage comes from single target, which is like very valuable. But there are also tanks that are kind of competitive in damage, to the point where it's like, why would you really bring a bear if they're competitive and they're tankier and they possibly bring a better raid buff? Because Resto Druid's looking extremely dominant. You will almost never play two of the same specs in a class. And yeah, I mean, just you get cannibalized by Resto Druid basically.
But you think in raid that's less likely to happen? Like, so it sounds like you think in raid, like Druid's Guardian has a decent chance of being like the Mark of the Wild.
It also just does a shit ton of damage, so I can see it standing alone.
Okay, sweet. Um, where are we going next? Let's do Brewmaster actually, another unconventional tank.
Okay, yeah, Brewmaster probably received the most changes, I
Like
want to say.
pruning or just changes?
I just in general, like pruning and the way it plays.
Okay.
So they definitely pruned a lot from this class. For anyone who's like worried about how daunting Brewmaster is, it's really not anymore. In fact, I would even argue it's probably the easiest tank now, which is kind of like a crazy 180.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so yeah, it's just super forgiving. The rotation right now is like Keg Smash Fire and you reset that every time with various other abilities, right? Like whenever you Celestial Infusion, that resets your Keg Smash. Whenever you Iron Skin Brew, it resets. Whenever you Purifying, you have a chance to reset. Whenever you Black Ox Brew, you have a chance to reset. So your rotations like Keg Smash Fire, Infusion, Keg Smash Fire, maybe you get another Keg Smash Fire, then you can do like a Iron Skin Brew or some shit, and then Keg Smash Fire again. And you just you're constantly Keg Smash firing,
Okay, so I
but
have.
it's really satisfying to play, I will
Oh,
say.
that's what I
Yeah.
was gonna ask, because like I feel like if they dumbed it down, that's something where like the OG Brewmaster player might be like, okay, well maybe this will be less fun now because I'm trying. But
Yeah, yeah, actually.
you're saying it's a
No,
good
no,
kind of.
you're right about that. So my read on this has been I've been telling people that a lot of the OG Brewmaster mains have found it to be less enjoyable. But I mean, it makes total sense, right? Like these guys have been playing it for years. They enjoyed it for what it was, and they kind of moved away from that direction. It's kind of like the whole Breath of Sindragosa situation where Frost DK players they always loved Breath, right? And when they took it away, then you saw people that were like not so okay with it, but everyone else was like, "Oh, this is amazing."
Yeah. That
So
makes
I
total
do think
sense.
there is some of that going on, right? Yeah. So I've definitely seen a lot of Brewmaster players complain about this, saying how like they've dumbed it down too much. But personally, I find it to be really fun to play. I mean, I found the old version to be really fun to play too, right? But like this one is a lot more intuitive and it feels really nice. Like it just flows really well. The way you're just it's a lot more like, 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 instead of like 1 3 2 4 1 3 2 4. You kind of get like an idea of what I'm saying with the rotation, right?
Yeah, I get it.
It's a lot more like the other tanks basically.
Okay, yeah. Also, if you're playing a class right now that has a lot of hidden intricacies to it and you enjoy that, definitely play the shit out of the game and enjoy it while you can, because obviously the direction of this game is going to where it is only going to become simpler, right? Which I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, that's just what it is, right? So, uh, you know, Brewmaster, one
Yeah.
of
I mean,
the
another thing with
examples
Brewmaster
of that.
too is for most tank players out there, what I've noticed is most tank players they can multi-class well, right? Except for Brewmaster. That's the one class that almost nobody plays. It's not like part of their repertoire. And with this change, I think it'll make Brewmaster a lot more like the other tanks.
Okay. Um, I also still think Brew has intricacies too, because it has like really good movement, and at least in Raid, like there's still a lot of things you can like do as that class that you cannot do with others. That's like really fun. Um,
Yeah.
what about strength? Where would you put it strength wise?
This class is the craziest it's ever been. I know this gets like said a lot about Brewmaster, but I honestly think this is the craziest Brew has ever been in at least like since M Plus came out. Like I can't speak for Mop and Wad, but this is the only time Brewmaster has been fully self-sufficient. And whenever a Brewmaster is fully self-sufficient, that is fucking crazy.
What do you
Like
mean
because
fully
normally a
self-sufficient? You could do
Brewmaster,
it. You could do it with no healer, and it would be totally fine.
yeah, you don't need a heal at all. And that's like kind of unheard of for Brewmaster because the class has always been all right, you stagger damage and then you receive healing extremely well and you're able to purify off a lot of damage, which also results in like rolling your healing. But right now, like this is the only time the class can actually fully self-sustain without a healer. And I think that's a pretty big tell for
I
how
think
OP this class is.
it's also telling you one other thing, right? Like they're just for sure gonna nerf that. Like Blizzard hates that. Blizzard hates tanks being self-sufficient.
Probably, yeah.
Like every time a tank has
Well, I
gotten
mean,
close to being self-sufficient, especially at the beginning of like end of expansions, you get enough stats to where it enables that kind of stuff. But at the beginning of expansions, they have like a blue post every expansion that's like, we don't like this. We want healers healing tanks to matter. Obviously, if any tank is able to, any non-blood DK is fully self-sufficient, they're going to fucking nerf that. Like I at least
well,
feel like
no,
that
I
with
mean,
me.
I would say for the past few expansions, that's not as much of the case because I mean, realistically, all of the tanks have been fairly self-sufficient. Like, I'm not gonna say fully
Which is a good
self-sufficient,
thing, by
but
the
they've been
way.
fairly,
All of us are fans of that, right? Like we tanks having the skill
yeah.
cap of like if it's hard to live on your own, but you can, we're fans of that. Like the whole you need a healer to heal you thing is ass. But I don't know. Would you bet on this class not getting nerfed? Basically, if you were a betting man.
I think it's getting nerfed. It's just the best tank right now. I'm gonna say it straight up. Like I think it's the best tank in all content right now, and it'll probably get nerfed, which will really suck. But Blizzard's gonna be Blizzard.
You can also nerf things that are really good and have the nerf be fine, right? You know, like it can be nerfed and not ruined. Is the point? Uh,
Yeah.
okay. Where would you rank it? Sounds like you're going crazy style in both.
Yeah, I'll definitely go crazy style on both.
So its damage is really good too. Then.
Yeah, its damage is really good. Single target's like really solid. AoE is really solid. Aggro's good. Utility is like it's a brewmaster, so it's not the craziest, but it's all right. And it's got the worst raid buff, but it's fine. Like the fact that you're still playing this class. So like what people have been doing on beta is they're playing a brewmaster with a mage and a warlock and an og. And when the fuck have we ever seen that?
Yeah, that's
You
really
feel like
interesting.
it feels like you'd be better off playing a VDH, but people are playing brewmaster instead because of
I
just
mean,
how good it is.
what's really interesting to that with that for me is the almost all of those raid buffs are terrible. Like the mage buff is good, and then the everything else like warlocks, if they even have a raid buff, I guess you could argue hellstones or gateway every now and then. But then and then evokers in quotes raid buff is like, I guess isn't necessarily just blessing of the bronze. It's the combination of all the shit they do, which again has been like reined in. So I don't know. That just means all those classes just do a ton of damage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I really like Brewmaster where it is right now. It would be nice if they brought tanks up to Brewmaster rather than bring Brewmaster down.
Yeah,
Also, I
like
mean,
the
it would just be
feel.
really
Yeah.
cool to just see Brewmaster being good for once because this class has legit never been meta a single time. So
Yeah.
you just throw them a bone.
Okay, so now we're into like the more traditional tank specs. So where would you oh, I guess Vengeance isn't, but all right, well, let's we'll do the shield tanks last. Let's do Vengeance.
Okay.
So same initial question. Does this class feel pruned at all coming to the expansion, or how does the button situation feel?
Vengeance plays the same, honestly. It plays the same, except the passives have been heavily pruned, which makes it a lot less punishing to play. Because before, at least like specifically in season 2 of Warfin, even though the class has been relatively simple in terms of the amount of buttons, where you literally just have like Demon Spikes, Immora, Soul Cleave, Fracture, that's about it, right? And but it's more about how you engaged in dungeons, how you set up a pull, how you get your defensives ramped. Basically, they removed a lot of the stuff that were passives, and you didn't have to think about. Yeah, it's to think very heavily about how tanky you were at all times. Whereas nowadays, they kind of just made all those flat DRs. So like one of them is frailty, where you had to build up your frailty stacks on the mobs, and that gave you percent DR, that gave you percent healing. Every time you consumed souls, you would get percent DR. Now it just gives you a flat amount of DR. Yeah, so they basically made the class a lot more forgiving to play, but it plays basically the same. You kind of just do the same shit. One cool change they did do is, I mean, I don't really want to call this cool because it's kind of it removes a lot of the identity from the class. Is Firebrand when you apply on the mob, it just puts it on you now. You don't have to spread your Firebrand to get DR rolling.
Yeah, it was like one of the few tank DRs that was actually different, and like the talents that involved spreading it
Yeah.
and extending it and stuff like that were like different. But yeah, now it's just like another DR. But I mean, maybe there's a reason for that, right? Like it wasn't there was problems with it being like that.
It's part of just what makes it easier to play without actually changing how you hit your buttons. But yeah, basically they and Spirit Bomb is also back, which is kind of cool. It's now a cooldown that you hit every so often instead of something that you do rotationally. Because they couldn't fit Spirit Bomb for the longest time, since it always competed with Soul Cleave, and the hero talents are just not. It just doesn't work well with Spirit Bomb, so they just made it a cooldown instead that you hit every so often.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've always felt like how they've handled that especially in regards to like soul cleave and stuff, has been really weird from the very beginning. um,
Yeah.
okay. It sounds like just from because other tanks being really good means that the new tanks that we're ranking are probably going to be lower because there's only room for 2 tanks in a raid and 1 in Mythic Plus. I'm gonna assume this is like in the A or B range for both.
So Demon Hunter is kind of weird right now because we don't know how the class is supposed to function. There's one really big difference between pre-patch and beta with Firebrand. So on pre-patch, Firebrand doesn't extend in duration. I don't know how it's supposed to interact because like they changed how it works, right? Like before you applied on the mobs and then you would extend it on the mobs. But now whenever it jumps, well, because on pre-patch it doesn't extend at all. On pre-patch it's just a 10%, it's a 10-second DR, and on beta, whenever it spreads, it would reapply that brand on yourself. So if you were fighting like a pack of 10 mobs, you would just constantly refresh your brand, which made the class so much stronger than what it should be. So
Oh,
it's kind
okay.
of hard to tell what the intended way of Fire Brand is. And assuming it's the pre-patch way, then the class suffers big time. You're losing like 10 plus seconds of Firebrand, and that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know what the intended way it's supposed to be is, but I mean, like currently on beta, I would say it's definitely one of the best tanks. I don't know if I would put it quite on Brewmaster, but it'd be like right alongside Brewmaster.
Okay.
But assuming that's not going to be true, then the class is going to be
What
kind
is
of
the
bad.
percentage chance you think that won't be true?
Uh, I don't know, 50-50. I have no idea.
Everything's 50-50. What a good answer.
Yep.
Um,
I mean, that's life.
yep, it
It's
either
50-50.
happens
It
or it
happens or it
doesn't.
doesn't.
Yep. All right, you have the choice.
Uh, for raid, I don't really see Vengeance getting played. I mean, when was the last time this class was even played? I'm probably putting like B, and especially with like Devourer being a thing. Yeah, I mean, maybe even C, honestly. I'd
Damn.
probably put in C.
Yeah, actually, I'm
Wait,
trying to
like really,
think.
when was the last time VDH was played?
I believe we played Vengeance
Like
DH
Denathrius?
on Sire Denathrius, and it was only because Vengeance is because Havoc was like really bad,
Mobility?
like the worst
Oh,
it's ever
okay.
been in Raid. Yeah, it was specifically a Havoc being bad thing. It wasn't even a Vengeance being good thing. So, the other time before that was Nyalotha, which is actually right before that. We didn't actually play it in the race, but that was a mistake. I think Vengeance was the best tank in Nyalotha. It just didn't get
Wait, really?
played. Yeah, and it was just a corruption thing. They were just like unkillable, and they did the second most damage behind Blood DK, but you wouldn't have ran 2 Blood DKs for with Echoing Void. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, you're just not gonna play this shit at all. Devourer is like the new shiny spec too, and it's really good. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
or no chance.
Okay. So we're putting it in Mythic Plus. You said where?
Uh, Probably, I don't know. It's between Crazy Style and A. I think I'll just leave it at A, honestly, because
I mean, it sounds like
yeah,
you think
maybe even
Brewmaster right
drop
now without
their
changes is
tank.
just the tank. So if that's the case, I mean, you could look at.
Yeah,
Good.
I also don't know how it's gonna work, right? Because like it's 50-50. Either it happens or it doesn't.
True.
Yeah,
It's so true.
fuck, you just put in Crazy Style.
Okay. Fuck it. Um. Okay. To the shield tanks. You can go either way.
We'll go with Warrior.
Okay.
Yeah, so Warrior is basically the same shit, honestly, because it already got its rework in Orphan Season 3, so we kind of got an insight on what exactly they were going to do. It's kind of like Frosty K, right? Like they already reworked the class. Uh, I mean, it does have a couple of new, really cool things. They actually added more utility to this class. Oh, I was gonna say too, for Vengeance, I forgot about that. They nerfed the utility on that class. Like it went from the craziest fucking utility in the game, where you go from silencing mobs for 10 seconds, 2 charges, 40 seconds cooldown, and you have like 2 of each sigil down to it's like pretty dog shit utility. But Warrior on the other hand, Warrior got a shit ton of utility. Their shout that interrupts mobs is
Yeah.
insanely good. They have a new talent that makes Shattering Throw a silence for 3 seconds. So you actually just have an Avenger shield on a 45-second cooldown as Prot Warrior now.
Does it AoE?
So you have like 3 different interrupts. No, it's only one target, but it's still like pretty cool, right? Like you just like fucking toss your spear at one of the mobs and it just silences them. Yeah, the uncapped AoE fear, their rallying cry is better now. So this is actually one of the most utility heavy classes now. It's actually kind of crazy how much Warrior has come up.
And it's funny that it's just is it just Prot, or do the other specs get it too?
I think it's no, actually no, it's on the class tree, so it should be for other classes too.
Okay,
But
because
I could be wrong though.
that's
I
been
don't
like the
even play them.
biggest complaint with Warriors for like the longest time, right? Is that like they had actually nothing. So the fact that all of them get it is good.
Yeah, but I mean they still have the shout thingy that DPS Warriors don't have, so
Yeah.
it's still kind of a big deal. But yeah, so Warriors got really good utility. I mean, it's honestly mostly the same as Warf in Season 3, where it's a very staple tanky class that doesn't really take any physical damage at all, but does kind of get destroyed by bleeds and heavy magic damage, especially with the removal of spell block. One cool thing about Prot Warrior is they merged Last Stand with Shield Wall, which makes it a lot more friendly to use. So basically, whenever you use Shield Wall, you just get 30% healing for free. And for newer tanks, that's like a very common mistake where they'll see damage coming and then like the damage happens, then they press their DR, right?
Then they do it. Yeah.
It's like an oh shit button, yeah,
I mean, I
which is a
feel
very
like
common mistake that
let's not even say all tanks. I think that's or new tanks. At least for players, I feel like even the best players know the feeling of like taking some unintended damage and hitting the panic bark skin at like 10%
yeah.
HP. Bro, everyone fucking hits that shit every now and then.
Yeah, so they made that a lot more forgiving. Like it's actually better to shield wall a little bit later now instead of just like hitting it before the damage happens. Well, I mean, it depends obviously, but it's actually like as long as you take some damage first and then you hit it, it's kind of nice. It actually just like heals you on top of giving you DR, makes it a lot friendlier to use.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Warrior, I mean, it's the same shit.
So goaded, bad, good.
Well, if you liked Warrior how it is right now, you would probably still like it. In terms of performance, yeah, I'd say it's probably like A in raid and probably like A and M plus too. It's like a very solid tank. The only thing I would say that's a little bit lacking in M plus compared to Warfin is the dungeons aren't as Prot Warrior friendly as they were in Warfin Season 3, and there are just simply better tanks right now. Also, Battle Shout is not nearly as good because
The
the
people you're
classes right
buffing
now are
don't care
just
about
not.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's all changing on Tuesday, so who knows? Maybe we'll see some actual classes that'll benefits big time from Pro Warrior, and that class shoots up a bit.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, but you said A in one of them. I didn't see hear where the other one went.
Yeah, I just put an A in both.
A in both. Sweet. Okay.
Also,
A
dude,
header
Brewmaster,
behind Guardian.
yeah, Brewmaster is so forgotten. Nobody knows what this class is. That someone's asking in your chat what is even the icon with a bull. Like literally, nobody even knows what the fuck this class is.
I mean, that's just a first time message, bro. The first time messages today have been absolutely insane.
Well, he's not being a first time chatter. He's just like legit curious. Like, what the fuck is that?
He is a first time chatter.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, normally it's like a troll message, but
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think he's trolling.
Yeah, I see. No, he's not. He's just like, what the fuck even is that, bro? All right, last tank, the Paladin, the old Prot Paladin.
So I've heard a lot of dooming about Prot Paladin because people just like don't like the way it plays now. They lost a lot of their defensives. They lost Eye of Tier. Their what else did they lose? I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what else they lost, but it's just like defensive uptime. I mean, a lot of the passives are lost, that's for sure. So it's kind of like a similar situation to VDH, where you don't have to worry about keeping up all of this bullshit in order to be tanky. But one thing I will say about Prot Paladin is, oh
Have
yeah,
you
they
not
lost
played a
Hammer
lot of
Craft too. I
it
forgot about
compared to
that.
other tanks?
Definitely not as much as they were tanks. I was playing around with it today. I actually really like how it plays right now though, because the Apex talent feels amazing. It's a proc. Whenever you proc, your Avenger Shield generates 3 Holy Power. You know how people have been complaining for the longest time how Holy Power isn't generated from Avenger Shield? Well, now you
Yeah.
get 3 of them.
Yeah, that whenever they made
And
that change,
during wings, yeah. What do you say?
I was just gonna say whenever they made that change, it just felt like it didn't make any sense and that the economy was wrong with making holy power. Not a huge deal.
Yeah, well, they actually moved all of the Holy Power to elsewhere, right? So you have 2 charges of Judgment, and your Wings Judgments just generate a whole lot more. But the big thing is your Wings feels amazing right now. Whenever you're in Wings, you're generating an absurd amount of Holy Power, and you actually feel like a fucking god in Wings. The problem with Prot Paladin right now is, well, this has been a problem since Dragonflight. The Sentinel talents, or like that choice node, is such a problem. You're either choosing between an insane amount of tankiness or an insane amount of damage. And that's like always the worst choice to ever have to make as a tank,
Yeah.
because that also means that the tank is probably tuned around the defensive part. Like you just can't live without it. So we're in a situation where, as a Prot Paladin, you need Sentinel to be living the highest keys, and if you're not playing it, you're gonna die. But if you are playing it, then you're doing no damage. So it's a feels bad situation to be in.
Yeah. Is there another tank that has that? A choice node that's like that major in either direction?
I don't know, honestly. I can't really think of one right now. I mean, there were moments like that for Vengeance, for example, where you had to like choose between Cheat Death and, say, Firebrand Spread, or uh Soul Crush, but that's like no longer a thing. Yeah, I don't know if there are any other tanks right now that have that big of a choice.
Yeah, I know it I know when that first came out it was a problem as well, right? Cuz like you said, I think there's an opposite problem too. The problem of, oh, you're saying that, oh, it's going to be tuned around the defensive thing. But I think it also has the issue of the defensive thing being really strong, but the better players like pushing everything for damage. So you might try to play the like damage focused one, and then people like read a Wowhead article and do that when their keys would go so much easier if they just use the other one.
Bro, that shit was a classic back in Dragonfly. When this talent first got introduced, it was recommended from Wildhead that you played Damage Wings. And so all the Pug tanks were doing it, and I heard countless complaints about how Paladin was just like dog shit, and you had like all these Pug healers and Pug DPS that were like, oh, I never want to play with a Prot Paladin because they just fall over. Except it
Yeah,
turns out that the entire time, all these Pug Paladins were playing Damage Wings, and it was just straight up just not good at the time.
yeah, the classic.
It was straight up poisoning the well.
Yeah, I won't even look past the irony of the fact that I think this tier list is doing that exact same thing to a lot of people, but all good. Um, okay, so where do you think Prot goes?
Uh, I don't think it's that bad, but I'll probably put it in A for raid, because I mean it's like it's always been a pretty solid tank.
Yeah,
Maybe I don't know, maybe even B. Yeah, somewhere around there, A or B. Because
yeah,
like paladins have always been like fairly solid in raid.
okay.
And then in M plus, man, I don't even know. A or B too. Probably put in B just to even it out a bit.
So you think there's
I
not
do
a
think
chance that
it's
it's meta though?
no, there's no chance it's meta, but it's also not that bad. It's actually like it's definitely better than Blood DK. Let's just say that.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Easy enough.
Yeah, I think this is fine. Yeah.
You're happy with it? You can make any final changes if you want to.
Uh, yeah. I'll link this too.
Okay. Uh, what I'm looking at, but I'm Oh, it made me download it. This is amazing. Oh, it's just what? Just a picture of someone instantly. Oh, just a picture of a paladin running in and taking one melee and dying. Yeah. I'll just link it in chat if people want to see it.
We need that Ruby Life Pools clip. You ever seen that one? That was such a banger.
We have a bunch of those in our guild from like during races. Like there's a really good one of Dryny getting one shot. All right, W. Thanks for your time.
Yep.
Right, love you. Bye. Okay. Let's see who we got. We got Ellesmere, we got JB, and potentially Automatic Jack. So we're just gonna do some healer stuff. All right. Gonna. Oh. I'm not lit. 1 second. Yeah, I'm not. Reptar thinks the stream's ending because I'm getting. I'm just gonna use the bathroom real quick. Come right back. Oh, someone posted some shit. Dude, that just made me realize that the Korean that I took a couple years ago, where I got pretty good at not understanding written Korean or spoken or speaking it myself coherently, but I could read the alphabet and I could pronounce words. And after looking at this, I realized that I can no longer do that. I completely forgot all of it. I think. Well, some of it. Some of the syllables I understand, but super easy to learn. Yeah, it's a really logical alphabet. If you don't use it, you lose it. So true. All right, let's do Holy Paladin first. Or wait, I think I told JB we would do him first. No one cares about Resto Druid. Yeah, they do, man. If they're in voice, I think I might know what Discord they're in. Then I can see if they're in the middle of a key. Oh, no. It's a different one. Okay, JB's ready. Yo.
Hello?
Yo, what's up? Have you been a
All right.
Have you been a beta demon?
Yeah. Yeah, not by choice. Blizzard has just left me staggeringly little else to do.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Oh, so you're like you're sad there's no Fated Season 4 thing, right? Because for Mythic Plusers, that was just
not even content. Fated. I am at the point now where I am so desperate for WoW content that I actually played like hardcore for a week.
Oh Jesus.
And I would have done Burning Crusade if I could have found a single other soul that I knew of that was like playing Burning Crusade. I asked around for like a week trying to find anybody else that I knew that was playing, but like nobody, like the only people that were playing it that I knew of were people that were already like playing Classic. And I didn't really want to play by myself on Burning Crusade and like try to find people to play with for like 2 weeks to fuck off from midnight.
Oh,
So I feel like I've just been left with beta. Like there's just nothing else to do. So
Yeah. I don't feel that way. I got all kinds of stuff going on, but in the real world, you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
And now it feels kind of like you're fucking flexing on me. I'll be honest.
No, I mean, I playing TBC with no one else sounds awesome, man. Okay, so Resto Druid. What I'm starting all these with is like, actually, I feel like with healers it might be relevant to talk about the UI stuff, but before that, how do you feel about like button pruning? Like, does your class feel pruned or different, bad or good in any way? Like, what is the button situation going into midnight?
Druid kind of escaped much button pruning. Blizzard made, I think, a concerted effort to prune Blizzard or Resto Druid's HOTS, which I assume is a reflection of just we have to fit all of these HOTS on the unit frame now. And Resto Druid had a lot of just random passive bullshit HOTS that showed up. So
Well, I
feel
think
like
there's more reason than just that, though, right? Like, isn't part of the complaints from healers being that you wish your power was more focused in just your base HOTS rather than the thousands of talents that amplify them in some way? And I guess in Resto Druid's case, those were actually just more HOTS on your frame.
I mean, there were some active HOTS you were using. Like, they got rid of, like, Cenarian Ward, which was actually, like, a button press. And then they got rid of some passive stuff. But in terms of the actual buttons you're pressing, I think really only Grove Guardians got turned into a proc instead of a button, and then Flourish got baked into Trank. But besides Cenarian Ward, in terms of your, like, rotational buttons, I don't think Druid really changed much at all.
What about gameplay wise, very generally speaking? Like, if you can separate it from the UI, hopefully, but like, do you feel like the classes, like, they made good changes as far as how fun it is to play, or bad?
Yeah. I think they actually made Druid a bit more involved than it was in War Within. Especially in dungeons, you're using Rejuve more than you used to. That was kind of a dead button for a while, and now it's back to being used pretty regularly. And in Raid, I think our rotation is going to be fairly similar in terms of the spam Rejuve until you've got your buffs up, and then hit regrowth a lot. I think that kind of core gameplay loop is going to stay pretty similar. So I think Druid ended up in a good spot in terms of its rotation and feel.
Okay. They also lost like actually I think they just buffed healer damage recently, but any thoughts on like the healer damage situation or the loss of your kick?
God bless getting rid of kicks. Any healer that is sad that they lost kick is a full-blown victim of Stockholm Syndrome. That shit sucks. I was really happy to never have to worry about kicks for a long time in Mythic Plus. Then they gave me a kick, and I had to pretend like I was happy to get it. But now I'm not going to pretend like I'm sad that it's gone. Fuck kicks. Nobody wants to do that shit. And I'm happy to not have to ever think about it again. So
unless you play Resto Shaman.
Unless you play Resto Shaman, then you have to think about it once every 30 seconds. As far as damage, I mean, every healer's damage is beans right now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, because in order for healer to do competitive damage, they'd have to buff everybody by like 300%. And Blizzard's never going to do that. It will take 4 or 5 successive healer buffs for healer to start doing the kind of damage that's relevant. We may eventually get there, but it'll probably be 2 expansions from now. Or some insane amount of borrowed power. But yeah, healer damage seems like it's kind of an afterthought at this point, and I've made my peace with that.
Okay. I guess just if there was any space to talk about things that you think are good or bad about the spec before ranking it, you could do that.
I mean, I think Druid's in a pretty good spot, rotationally. Like, you feel like your buttons do something. Like, it feels like you're being encouraged to use most of the buttons in your kit. Probably more so now than maybe really ever with Resto Druid. Feels like all the buttons kind of have a place and do something. And the I was a fan of pruning in general. Like, I felt like a lot of specs ended up really bloated after Dragonflight talent rework. I mean, that's just like the thing I've compared it to is if you're doing like bodybuilding, you have the cycle, the bulking and the cutting.
Yeah.
And the Dragonflight shit was the bulking. They had to come up with entirely new talent trees. And there was going to, I mean, in order to fill out a talent tree that big, you're going to have to throw a bunch of bullshit in there that, like, you don't actually think is important, but you just need a certain amount of quantity. So there was a lot of shit that ended up in the Dragonflight talent trees. And I think we got to the point now after a couple expansions where Blizzard had a pretty good idea of, like, what mattered and what didn't. And so now we're in the cutting cycle of, like, all right, we've had some, every spec has, like, kind of had its rework. We've got a pretty good sense of, like, what needs to stick around and what doesn't. So now we're going to start cutting, making the classes leaner, getting rid of some of these buttons that are just filler. And so I was a fan of pruning in general, and I feel like Druid ended up in a good spot afterwards. And it feels like I was okay with basically everything they got rid of. So I'm happy with where it ended up rotationally, and I feel like we've got less, like, cooldown buttons, and I don't like cooldown buttons in general. I just want my spec to be kind of good all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think we've gotten closer to that, and I like that.
All right, sweet. Where do you think Mythic Plus and Raid separately? How good do you think Resto Druid is going to be?
Well, it's probably the best healer in Mythic Plus right now. And the I think for people that are kind of penciling in early metas, I think Resto Druid's the expected meta healer right now for Mythic Plus. For Raid, I think it was based on testing. It felt like it was kind of middle of the road, and then Druid got a little rebalancing this week where they tried to nerf it in Mythic Plus, but, like, keep it relatively the same in Raid. And it was a fairly big set of changes to Raid talents. So I'm not sure how Druid ended up in Raid after that. But my suspicion would be that it would be like a pretty good healer, but I'm nothing like crazy and nothing like dog shit.
Okay, that sounds like a B or an A.
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on where other specs ended up, like, I would probably put Druid. I mean, there was like Disc Priest was really good for a while, but it's been nerfed a few times. I'm not sure where it ended up. But, like, Disc Priest seemed like it was doing pretty well. There were some fights where I think Prez was doing really well, and I would maybe put Druid, like, a bit below maybe the top 1 or 2 spots, but I wouldn't put it in, like, the bottom couple spots. So kind of middle of the pack, whatever letter that ends up being.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind with other people, because it does have to work relatively with other healers. So you think they're right about third? That makes sense. I'll check that out. All right, W. Thanks, bud.
Oh, also,
You got
I wanted to say that I do say I think Resto Druid is the best healer right now, and I want that on the record for anybody that's going to come back later and be like, JB never says shit about how his specs should get, like, about how his specs good. I just want that on the record as being like, I said Resto Druid was the best healer right now, and I'm gonna hold some other healers to this in the future when they're talking about their spec. If they don't say that shit with their chest about their healer, we're gonna come back to this conversation in the future. And
Yeah,
I also think, just as a general rule, if you ever get on social media and you call for buffs to your spec, you should have to quote tweet yourself from the past asking for nerfs for your spec when it's too good. Those things should have to go together.
True. So true.
You should have to point to yourself saying my spec is too good and deserves to be nerfed for every time that you're going to ask for buffs. And if you can't do that, and if you haven't made a statement like that since the last time you asked for buffs, you're not allowed to do it.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty factual. That would be, I don't think anyone's ever done that. Has anyone ever been sitting with their class being really good and tweeted that they think their spec is too strong and needs to be nerfed? There's zero chance because everyone would just kill them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if there's a person who's done that, they're dead. They've been...
Yeah, they're gone. They've been gone.
Yeah.
You don't even remember them because they're dead. Yeah, okay. That's good. All right, thanks for your time. Swader, love you, bye. Owned. So... Yeah, I mean, people do that on these lists, man. They, like, if you are... People always get mad for, like, they're saying they're sandbagging, but... Do people get mad at them for ranking it too high? I guess so. People of that class. You're going to get us nerfed. That's why they do the other thing, right? Okay, I'm going to call Ellesmere real quick. Now good? Last year, people put Hunter in C. Dude, Hunter's in one of those weird spots now where it's going to be real. Because, like, I think raid buffs, whether you realize it or not, oftentimes people will literally cite this. Like, especially tanks and healers are like, I think this class is good, but because it isn't going to be the Mark of the Wild, it can't be S tier. And, like, part of that is true, right? Like, let's say Resto Druid was the best healer, but Guardian was the best tank by more, to where every group had a Guardian. That would nerf Resto Druid because you would play another healer instead. That's just true, right? Hunters are in a really interesting spot where their raid buff is so good and it stacks with the amount of targets that, you know, you might end up bringing multiple of them on the average raid fight. Anytime there's a, like, the Hunter raid buff is so good that if they're not absolutely dog shit, anytime there's a second target while you are hitting the boss and they both need to die, you're gonna bring a second Hunter because you want the buff on both of them. And that is that's a really common occurrence on a raid fight, probably more often than not. So I feel like Hunters most likely would be put a tier higher than their power because they just have, like, a stackable raid buff, kind of. We won't find out until this tier exactly how strong that is, I guess, and I don't think they're going to nerf it before the tier because, or at all maybe, but they won't do it before the tier because they just changed it. They would need a reason to. All right, I'm calling Ellesmere. Hunter's Mark stacks. Yeah, so, like, you can only put it on one target, but now it's just damage all the time instead of above 80%. So, you're able to use it on like any target, right? Like, say there's say it's a 2-target cleave fight, you would need one on each. Say it's a boss where an ad spawns that you swap to while you're cleaving the boss down, which is like most fights. If it has enough HP to where that buff has a lot of value, you would run a second one, yeah. So the council fight needs 3 hunters. Well, the council fight's a little different. So there's a council fight with 3 bosses, except for like 90% of the fight, you're only hitting 2 of them at a time because the third one is taking 0 damage during its like ult phase, is what I call it. So, like, you probably could just do 2, but, like, there would still be some value in a third. But yeah, you would need 2 without question. Yeah. Just because of that, which is like a weird raid buff situation. Is there any fight this tier where you can stack a trophic poison this raid with rogues? So I haven't. I'm gonna call Ellesmere in a second. I just wanted to dispel this because people still think you can stack a trophic poison. So there was a time on like PTR, sometime last expansion, where like they made a change to something and a trophic poison was stackable. But we like triple checked this last year. At least going into last year, that did not work. You could not run 10 rogues and have a trophic poison, even DR'd, stack to like a pretty big number. That just doesn't work. And we cleared this with Blizzard as well, because we were concerned about that being a thing, and they were like, yeah, this just doesn't do that. And we're like, okay. And it hasn't been. I don't know if it is in the expansion, if they like change something else, but I highly doubt it. It seems like something people keep saying, but it just doesn't actually work. Anyways. Hello.
Yo, what's up?
Oh, I need to turn you down a little bit. Nothing much. We're talking about
sorry.
some WoW. Yeah, all good. We're just talking about some WoW classes, and yours is a really interesting one because I feel like you've been through a journey, you know, as a
We're still going through a journey.
as a Holy Paladin player. Yeah. Actually, I want a thought about something JB just said. He said that anytime anyone on Twitter is calling for their class to be buffed, they have to quote tweet a tweet of themselves in the past asking for their spec to be nerfed for it to be valid to do that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I would pass that test because I did call for several nerfs to Ashen Hollow and season 2 of Dragonflight
Oh,
on
shit.
Twitter. So,
Oh shit. All right. Well, then you're about that shit. Okay. So I kind of want to start. What I'm starting all of these with is just asking someone if, like, how has, if at all, the button pruning felt for your class? Like, do you feel as a Holy Paladin like there's less things to press, and how you feel about that? Now I know they literally like removed stuff and in some cases added it back with your class specifically, and then made some more changes recently. But like, how do you feel like your class has come out of the great pruning?
it's definitely a lot more simplistic, especially in M+. There's probably half the buttons. Whether or not that's a good thing is kind of player dependent. I know some people are enjoying less buttons, but having the buttons be more effective. And some people are sad about the buttons. I personally land somewhere towards the being more sad. I do wish we had at least one other button, but in general, I think that it's been okay, especially with the latest change where they brought back basically before the change that happened 2 weeks ago. It was really bad. It was in like a dreadful state. It was incredibly boring. Then they temporarily for one day brought back Crusader Strike and messed up everything. And then they reverted that. And after that revert, it's been very fun since then because they basically reintroduced 2 spells that we were never pressing that were part of our core kit, which is Flash of Light and Shield of the Righteous. So with those back in play, it's actually been very fun. I've found HPAL incredibly enjoyable. But yesterday or 2 days ago, no, I think it was last night, they announced more healer tuning, and with that tuning they, I think, accidentally just destroyed one of our core rotational buttons, which is Judgment. So now we really only have Holy Shock and Flash of Light. The way that they destroyed it was by severely over nerfing the one thing that was making Judgment worth pressing, which was Empyrean Legacy. So with that massive nerf to the Empyrean Legacy talent, we don't really press that anymore. So now I would say we have officially gone back to, we do not have enough buttons. So hoping that they look into that Empyrean Legacy nerf.
Okay. Not talking about pruning necessarily or power yet. How do you feel about just this spec in general? Like, you've now come out of this, they've made these changes. What do you think? Like, would you, so you could even say like good or bad, like what are some good things about Holy Paladin and bad things? Like what coming to this expansion is like, okay, this is a lot better than it was in a previous one.
Holy Shock feels better, and Judgment felt better up until yesterday. Holy Light is actually kind of nice. I really like what they ended up doing with Holy Light, despite the fact that it does cost a huge amount of mana and we don't really have a way to manage our mana. I still like that they removed the linking of Holy Light to um, our infusion and instead just made it like a big bomb spot heal, and it really is big. It does a massive amount of healing. So Holy Light, I enjoyed the changes to that. It's one of those buttons that you're not going to press super often rotationally, but when you do, it's going to feel really good, and I love that. Light of Dawn, best change they've made by far. Just the way that they switched it from a conal ability to a 360 degree and made it go from 10 or 15 yards to now 40 yards. Incredible change, 100% needed that. So that's been my favorite change personally. Lastly, giving Shield of the Righteous a mana return, and more recently making that mana return actually meaningful in some way, because it was like basically useless up until they buffed it, but now it actually feels like pretty good. So I think those have been the best. And then some of the button pruning was actually really good. The way that Hammer of Wrath was baked into Judgment, and the way that Consecrate was baked into Judgment via the talent. Both those buttons have not felt good to press in a very long time. So I think that was actually good.
Okay, so you think overall positive on the pruning angle then?
Yeah, except for the change yesterday that now makes Judgment a terrible button. Yeah. Other than that, yes, I think most of the pruning has been good.
Yeah, I also think with the tuning yesterday, unless they had a dev note about it, I think it's unlikely they made that change to make it that you don't press Judgment. It sounds like one of those things where that is an unintended consequence of them making that change, right? Like, do you think the purpose of... Yeah, okay, so hopefully would change there.
I think that they thought that Judgment was better to press baseline than it actually is, and didn't realize that how much value of Judgment was actually just in Empyrean Legacy, the talent itself.
Yeah. Okay. All right, sweet. How good do you think Holy Pally is going to be in Raid next year?
I think a lot of it depends on tuning. If we're going by what happened last night and nothing gets changed, then probably not great. We're going to be basically spam casting Flash. Our spot healing is going to be pretty weak.
How is your spot healing going to be weak if you're spam casting Flash? That's crazy. Wouldn't that mean that...
Because Flash, we spam cast Flash as a generator. It doesn't actually do any healing, basically. Beautiful. Like it does some if you have infusion procs, but if you don't have infusion procs, then it does basically zero healing. So and your infusion procs are going to be less because you're not pressing Judgment, so you're not getting the CDR from that in order to press Holy Shock, and Holy Shock is how you get them. So basically less infusion procs and less powerful spot healing. I think overall we will be able to spot heal like in specific circumstances pretty strongly with Holy Light, because Holy Light is such a giant spot heal, but we have to be very careful about where we do it because it costs so much mana and we have no mana regeneration tool, so we can only cast Holy Light like maybe 10 times a fight. So it's going to be like very specific where we pick and choose how to use our spot healing. Overall, like HPS throughput wise though, I'd say we're going to be middle of the road. I don't think we're going to be like dreadful, but I don't think we're going to be great either. If you do decide to factor in all the DR that we bring from our beacons and our new beacon, and the Devo aura obviously is always talked about. So if you factor all those in, I'd say we're standard, like a little over middle of the pack in terms of like how much lives we're saving.
Okay, so you'd say B, maybe? B is directly in the middle.
I'd say B. B seems fair.
B seems fair, and maybe a little higher if they end up changing the Judgment thing.
Yes.
All of this is subject to change anyway with tuning. There's going to be a lot of tuning before the actual season comes out, so...
I was actually shocked to see all the tuning yesterday, because I'm like, what data are they using? Are they using pre-patch data or beta and plus data? I'm really not sure.
I don't think a lot of it. So when I asked them a lot of questions about that the last time I was there, and I think the community perception is like they are using exclusively like logs and community information and maybe sims to like make changes, and I think that is a little bit overblown. Like they have like internal tools. I didn't get to see it, but they said they had like internal tools they do to tune a lot of things, even though I think it is obvious to all of us that they do look at logs and what is the community is actually doing to tune things. So like you might be like, okay, well, we need to wait till the season is out, or maybe they're doing a pre-patch. Hopefully Blizzard never makes a change based on pre-patch, because that's just completely bad information. But
Yeah.
or relevant information. Like there's just too many things that are missing. But yeah, I don't know. I think you're going to continue to see notes all the way up until the season, honestly, probably weekly. And it's just them. The class designers aren't doing anything else until the season comes out other than preparing for the season. They're not really working on season 2 yet. So I think
Yeah, that makes sense.
you're just going to see them look into it and just double check where specs are based on whatever information they have available.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Mythic Plus then.
M plus, I'd probably put us in the same category. Again, if you had asked me yesterday, I would put us probably A tier, like high A tier. But after that change, probably B, even maybe C. But I'm going to say B because we do still provide a huge amount of DR from our beacons and Devo and stuff. So like that is going to be decent for high keys. But overall, our healing got hit very hard, and our damage got relatively like we were one of the things that was the selling point for HPAL the past few weeks on beta is the fact that we can do so much damage relative to other healers. And it's still not a crazy amount because all healers don't do very much damage. But with this tuning pass, they buffed a ton of healers' damage, but they actually didn't really buff HPAL much. They just kind of offset it because it was overperforming on beta. So we've kind of lost that selling point, which is fine. We're more like evenly tuned, but that was kind of the selling point. Now I don't see why you would bring HPAL aside from maybe the DR factor. But if you're really going for DR, you probably want HPS throughput anyways. And at that point, you're better off with a few other healers.
Yeah, not to mention that raid buffs are a big part of Mythic Plus, and I think Paladin
Yep.
just has one of the... It's not an irrelevant raid buff. Like, there are classes that have nothing. Like, having DR is good, but it's not the same. It's not something you feel like... there are other healers that have raid buffs that you say, okay, we need this raid buff. Where are we going to get this in our comp? And Devo isn't that. So that's also a losing battle you're fighting. Which is hard to represent on a tier list because you're mostly just talking about like its potency. So, okay.
Yeah, the raid buffs are basically split into like the good raid buffs, which are the ones people care about, which increase throughput, and then all the other raid buffs, which do not affect throughput. If you're on the throughput list, people are going to want you for M+. If you're not on the throughput list, then you're going to be sad.
I haven't played Mythic Plus in the last season or two. Is there not like... Do you feel like you don't need Fort anymore, for example, or is it just nice if it's there?
Well, Priest was more about PI, right? Like Fort is like a nice thing, and you also get a little bit of lenience if you're playing Disc. But the big raid buff that people actually cared about with Priest was always PI. Whenever we would like look at logs or like compare groups or whatever, it would never be like, oh, they have Fortitude. It's like they have PI for this poll, so then this poll becomes a lot easier. So it's like... Again, it just comes down to throughput, really. I don't think Fort, like, you can always make up for missing some stamina or missing some DR. Like, you can figure out ways around that, put on more verse, figure out how to shield or play your defensives better, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But you can't play around just
manufacture
missing
damage.
raw throughput.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, cool. All right, that's all I need. Thank you.
All right, cool.
All right,
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Oh, fuck, I forgot. I'm sick. It doesn't matter. You can't get mad at me for forgetting. It's okay. Chat. Yeah, I mean, chat always gets mad. Anytime we do these, everyone in chat's a skeptic. Everyone's like and some people have legitimately done this, which is probably where this comes from, but everyone is just gaslighting. They're all saying it's worse than it is. And like historically looking back on it, and we've done this in previous streams, there'll be people where it's like, oh my god, this guy always sandbags, and then we'll go back and look, and like all of the ratings are very fair, right? Mostly because I think what happens often is, and just another thing about this is you are having a bunch of different people rank things on a tier list, and they're not the same person with the same information, so everything relatively can be off by a tier because of a glass half full or empty kind of person, right? But they're looking at like the changes that, like, here's a good example. If you're someone in chat, a lot of times when I ask people like why they think something is good, they're like, bro, have you seen how much damage this class has done the last few weeks in keys? So they're basing it off of things they've seen. And the person ranking it is maybe basing it off of some notes they saw yesterday that hasn't actually been, you haven't seen keys since that change. and you're basing it off of old information, and they're basing it off of new information. It's just where you get your information, right? Like they are the person you get your information from, or you see it on a stream and they're doing it in their head, which is usually how things get like misunderstood around tier list times. Okay, time to do what Kalamazoo is consistently accurate, and he is always flamed. Also, the people who get flamed the most are the ones where the most people play their spec. Too. Yeah, people get mad all the time on like specs that are commonly good. If like a spec is good every single season, like commonly good, like a mage or a warlock, and then they come on here and they say that it's not like Giga S tier, everyone in chat's just like, they're not even mages who even have knowledge of the situation. They're just like, yeah, I fucking bet, bro. Sure, man. That's basically the reaction. Like Moonkins were like super good for a few years, and now they're like basically having that issue where they haven't even been good in a while, but okay, so Jack says, I'm not as studied up on Prez, but I have an expert I've talked to a ton called UT. That's his Discord name as well, who I think would be good. Sure. I mean, I'll fucking literally just random add this guy based on what you just sent. And maybe he answers and we'll talk to him. Sounds good. All right, hope it isn't capital. I think he answered me, or I think he added me. Oh my god, he has hella Discord flair. Bro, this person just added me and it like popped up their like little profile page and it's actually just all animated and loud as fuck. I forgot you could even do that. Do I just have like the most basic Discord account where like it's just a... Dude, my Discord is a picture of a smiley face with zero flair whatsoever. Am I just old as fuck or something? I must be. Must be. Okay, let's call Jack first. Hello.
Hello?
Oh my god, you're so loud. Yeah, I'm turning you down real quick.
But
Yeah, you're good. Dude, wait, I wonder if it's something on my end, because, like, I've talked to... Are you on your phone or something?
yeah, I'm on my phone.
Oh, that'll do. Okay, because I was just talking to Ellesmere, and it was, like, so fucking loud, and I think it was, like, he was on his phone. I think maybe what happened... Let me check it, actually. You know how, like, every now and then you, like, restart your computer, and you normally have Discord at, like, and your sound mixer... You have Discord at like 30, and then like you do a quick little computer restart, and it's back to fucking 100. That's exactly what happened. Okay. Literally it. I can probably turn you back up again.
Okay, how's this?
Yeah, I mean, you sound normal now. It's just Discord. All right, sweet. So we've already done Resto Druid and Holy Paladin, and you referred out Prez, which is fine. So you'd be what, talking about the two pre-specs, little Mistweaver, and a little Resto Shaman, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sweet. So before we're talking about any of them specifically, what is your take on the ever-evolving, like, healer UI situation? How's that been?
I'd say it's mostly there. I think for some people who got really used to like very, very specific tools, it is still really painful for like what they lost. An example of that is like being able to specifically put HOTS in like certain corners and make sure that like their eyes can move to exactly that position. But one of the Wowhead guide writers, Harik, actually just made a new add-on tool that allows you to color your frames for specific buffs like Atonement or like Riptide or Echo, which is a really big deal because previously Gander's frames, which is like the other healer add-on, he could make it so you could change the entire color of your frame, but only if it was like any buff present, which got really, really annoying. So I would say it's like
Was that the
mostly
thing? Was that
there.
the thing where people were going into their game files and like deleting like buffs
Yeah.
they don't care about?
But they fixed. But he actually made like a non like weird workaround for that doesn't involve game file deletion anymore.
That's just that's I haven't followed it that closely with healer problems specifically, but that was just one of the things that
Oh, sorry.
What's up?
Oh, my bad. I just dropped my phone.
Oh no, yeah, you're good. That was just one of the things that crossed my feed, and I was just like, how the fuck is this add-on situation so bad that we are deleting fucking game files to make things work? But I'm glad to see it's moved on past that. Do you want to talk about Priest first, or you want to start with one of the other two?
Yeah, let's start with Priest.
Cool. So let's start with Disc first. How is this class fared in the great like pruning? You know, there's a lot of classes lost some buttons, some didn't lose as much, some lost complexity, some gained it. I know Disc probably received some of the most changes in regards to its like identity, right? It's like they've been like the burst healer prototype, even though other healers could do it too. And like now it's like what, it's like a little bit more spread out, or how would you say that's turned out?
I think it's mostly good with how they're probably one of the biggest highlights is being able to set up your healing much more rapidly. And being able to better develop abilities like evangelism, which used to extend your atonements, but now it helps you apply them and apply them a lot faster, which kind of comes into like the same net effect, but it's nice because it skips having to place as many single atonements. So instead of taking like 15 seconds to apply 20 atonements to your raid, it now takes like 5. So that stuff I'm not too worried about, and I'm like pretty happy about. I think the concern is they're still trying to find ways to incorporate our pets, because previously you would use your pets to like set up your Shadow Covenant and bonus shadow damage. And now they're kind of doing it as like light damage and some mana regen and making you like actually care about your mana. It's kind of irritating how many tools you still have and how they're still trying to make a lot of those tools relevant in different ways. So even though it's not an active button, it's like a passive to summon your pet and then get some extra damage and some mana back. And then they make you care about the mana, so you're kind of pushed into running those kind of things.
Oh, okay. So you feel like it could be better maybe if you didn't have to run the exact talents you had to do?
Yeah, and I feel like the pruning kind of highlights how we don't really need that many talent nodes to make a coherent and interesting build. But then, you're forced into taking them, and so some talents just feel like really weak.
How do you feel about barrier being on the choice node it's on?
It's interesting because Uppies is still the competitor for barrier, and there's some situations where like really high damage on like Voracious, which is like this T-Rex looking dude in the next raid. His like highest damage period is a time where everyone's running all over the place. And so being able to like go up in the air and have a defensive and like rain down penance bolts kind of felt more useful than having a barrier, because the time where you could use barrier was like moderate damage, but everyone's stacked, and that's like way easier for healing in general. So it's interesting. Uppy still kind of feels meh, especially after they nerfed a couple talents that supported it, but it's also still like powerful enough to worth running, especially if you can stack it with your evangelism and archangel buffs. So it's kind of like you're stacking multiple different buffs on top of each other to make it feel really good.
Yeah,
So you have like situations for it.
I also feel like it's like throughput versus, even though you could look at damage reduction as a type of throughput, but you can't actually see it. So I feel like people are just going to default to the actual healing CD like every time, unless there's like a very specific instance where like people want barrier. And I just think that's like a very interesting development in disc, because like you've known, oh, I have a disc in the raid, that means, oh cool, we can like barrier something, and that's just like not true anymore unless you like absolutely want them to. And if they have to take it, they're getting nerfed, which is weird. So I just think that was like a thing that with the changes that I saw to disc that was interesting.
Yeah, and it's also interesting too because the damage gets a lot less spiky in raids, and almost every single boss fight has like 10, 20-second duration dots they put on the raid. And so all your damage isn't like this one big burst you have to survive where the damage reduction makes all the difference in the world. It's like the damage gets spread out, and so barrier kind of loses value on some of those fights because it's not capturing and reducing as much damage as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. How good do you think Disc is going to be in Raid and Plus?
I think raid is going to be, I guess, good, but not the insanity that it was before. It was like absurd in raid testing, and then they nerfed it 4 weeks in a row. And so I think it's in a position where it's probably going to get outshined by preservation in like Race to World First. But if you're like a disc player who just enjoys playing the spec and you're just kind of gaming with your, I mean, anything outside of like top 50 world or something like that, I think you just play what you like and you play it well, you'll be fine.
All right, where does that go though? Give me a letter.
Where do they put like Druid and Paladin?
So-
Is this like an overall tier list, or like are they split?
They're split between Raid and Mythic Plus. And in the Raid one, the Resto Druid is A and Holy Paladin is B because of the changes to not pressing Judgment yesterday. But it would probably have been higher without that.
Huh. I guess I would put Disc for Raid and like B behind Paladin because I think Paladin gets played in World First before Disc Priest does.
Do you think that's due to its power or due to its raid buff?
Like Paladin getting played?
Yes.
Kind of both. I think raid buff good, but also I think there were a lot of like flash heal dominant setups that I saw from like a log perspective, even like Chinese logs that were running some flash heal stuff, and it still felt like it was like a powerful healer. So if it was me, I would have put like Paladin higher for raid because if anything that's going to be like in Race to World First, I think would be at least A tier.
Yeah, it's really weird looking at like lists and there's so many different things. There's like raid buff because like let's just say for example Paladin was an okay healer, but then like Prot Paladin and Ret were terrible. That would, because you would always play a Paladin because of that, it would make Paladin appear higher than it is, right? You're like at the same time you're combining a class's potency, how strong they are, as well as the raid buff situation, which is relative to other classes that have nothing to do with you, and how strong other things are. Like, for example, your class could make it into, like, the race comp, but maybe something else is just so broken that it never sees the light of day, therefore it's worse than it actually is, right? Same thing, so... yeah, so you're saying you just want to... You're relatively putting it behind Paladin, which I think is fair.
Yeah. I think Paladin's like in a better spot than it was in Mana Forge Omega, and it was brought to World First.
Yeah. Okay. We have so Mythic Plus then for Disc.
Where do they put Druid and Paladin so far?
Druid is in Crazy Style and Paladin is in B. Again, the reasoning for B instead of A is it was doing a lot of damage in Mythic Plus for the last few weeks, but they buffed all healer damage yesterday, but not Paladin really, which kind of offset how ahead it was on, this is his words, offset how ahead it was, and then also the Judgment thing put it down in B where it otherwise would have been at the top of A, he said.
Okay. Yeah, again, I still feel like Paladin's stronger than Disc by quite a while. So, I mean, I'd put like Disc in C tier then for M+, because Disc literally runs out of healing in a lot of like high M+ environments where you're not able to sustain your output for the rot fights and for the burst fights. You have a 1.5-minute cooldown and a 4-minute cooldown. If you don't have one of those, like everyone dies. So those
That's
like 4
weird.
straight
Isn't
weeks
that,
of nerf.
Isn't that like kind of what they tried to change with healing in this expansion?
Yep. It is.
Yeah, that sucks. Okay.
And the reason, and I think the best healers, you know, like Druid, for example, everyone can agree is the best M+ healer. And a big reason for it is because its sustained healing is so strong that, you know, it doesn't depend on having a cooldown to do excellent healing. And Disc is in the exact opposite scenario right now.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Holy Priest, same pruning argument. Where does Holy Priest end up after the great pruning?
I think they overdid it a little bit with the pruning, but a lot of it was needed. Making like I'm glad they got rid of Renew. Some people, that might be a little controversial of a take, but I'm really glad they got rid of Renew because it was just a button that like didn't really do anything besides give you some cooldown reduction for your Holy Word. Getting rid of like Shadow Word Pain is a little bit overdoing it for like leveling because you can't really tag mobs very well, you know, for the weirdos like me that are leveling as a Holy Priest. And I think the worst one though is Heal. And Heal wasn't really a button you used in War Within. And so I always see people like head scratch that take. But Heal was really valuable, or would be valuable, I should say, in Midnight because damage slows down and you need to be able to still heal effectively without consuming mana really quickly. And right now your options are Flash Heal and Prayer of Healing. And both those cost quite a bit of mana. And so the playstyle is kind of pushing you towards building up stacks of Lightweaver with Flash Heal that buffs up your Prayer of Healing, and using your Surge of Light procs, which give you a half cost to your Flash Heal. Well, now they also work on Prayer of Healing, so you want to use them on your AoE heals. But you don't really have a cheap, effective way to build up those Prayer of Healing stacks. And so you're kind of just fighting mana burn all the time. And even though the spec is phenomenal healing in raids or in dungeons, it's constantly holding itself back because it can't spend, mana too quickly, otherwise it ooms. So the play style that's going to be coming around if they don't change anything is smiting during downtime and low damage to fish for Surge of Light procs to have cheaper Prayer of Healing. So Heal would fix a lot of problems just if it came back and had some good synergies.
Okay. So you're wishing for the one thing back, but like the other thing that's gone. How do you feel about like just gameplay? Like, is it fun to play Holy Priest in Midnight?
Yeah, it's more fun to play Holy Priest in Midnight than War Within, in my opinion.
Okay, so positive in that way. Like they made good changes. Okay.
Yeah, and they didn't really have to reinvent the wheel for the spec or anything like that. But what they ended up doing was they ended up nerfing a lot of passive healing. And so it just started making your active heals way better.
Okay. Where do you think Holy ends up in raid then?
On the bench beside Dispriest or behind it for World First.
Okay.
Because the big downside that they removed is Symbol of Hope. And so...
Yeah. You cut out for a second. Did you keep talking after you said Symbol of Hope? I was about to cut you off, but...
Oh, what's up?
Oh, I think we might have gotten, like, disconnected for a second or something, but... Do you
I think the Wi-Fi dropped.
Yeah. How much value do you put in, Wait, is Symbol of Hope the personal one or the mana one?
As both.
Oh, W. And I think at least for the personal side of things, I think that is one of those buttons that is extremely, well, I guess it's gotten nerfed a lot since it first came out, but had a lot of value when used correctly. And like you actually planned your personals around it on a fight, like the whole raid. And if you didn't do that, I would almost argue that it has zero value. Like it does basically nothing.
I think that's fair.
And so like an Erase World First thing, which is kind of what you were mentioning when you said it, which is accurate. That is something that we pay really close attention to. But I wonder the average guild, I bet like those symbols are just going off and they're just happening. And almost no one actively changes what they're doing, knowing it's going to happen at a certain time in the fight, especially because it might not. Like maybe your healer forgets to press it every pull, right? So like you actually don't have it at the same time every fight. So you don't actually plan around it. It ends up just being a nothing button, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that happening sometimes, but still it's always one of those things that, let's say like it did have value for a season, then like it got brought to World First, then I feel like it gives other people hope and then like encourages them in their guilds to play a Holy Priest.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Right behind Disc or about the same as Disc. So you think there's about the same chance? So you think it's one of those situations where if you play a Priest, there will be fights you play Holy on and fights you play Disc on?
That would be hype.
Oh, you don't think so?
I think Disc would probably edge it out a little bit.
Okay.
you done? Great.
Okay,
Sorry,
what about...
one sec.
Oh, you're good.
All right, what you got?
What about Mythic Plus for Holy Priest?
So this is where it's interesting because Holy Priest is actually a little bit better than Disc and M Plus right now.
Okay. You think... for what reason?
So, Holy Priest does really, really good healing. And
Then you're cutting out a little bit.
it actually just...
Yeah, you're definitely cutting out. Where are you at right now? What are you doing?
There we go. I'm in the garage.
Oh, well, that'll do it. Okay. So you just got home?
All right. Opposite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going out.
Yeah. Where are you going?
I'm going to a friend's house. Got dinner.
Oh shit, that's cool. What a well-adjusted adult. All right, well I can speak. You're at their house now.
No. I'm like leaving right now, so it's gonna be it's a drive. So this is all good.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. We might cut out one more time when you're leaving your Wi-Fi and then driving away from your house, I assume.
I just get out of the garage, so we're all good.
Okay. Hopefully we're good. All right. So Holy Priest and Mythic Plus, you said it was better than Disc. That was the last thing I heard.
Yeah, so it does really strong amounts of healing, but it's also incredibly cooldown centric. So if you don't have your healing cooldowns, you basically light your mana bar on fire just to do like some kind of healing.
But in dungeons you can get away with that, right? Because you can drink.
In a lot of cases, yeah. On some fights, kind of like Viceroy in Seed of Triumvirate, it's like the third boss.
Mhm.
He hits 3 players with like a sustained 5-second dot. Then he spawns tentacles, which do crazy random damage to people. And then he knocks everybody back and stacks everybody on top of him and does a whole bunch of pulsing damage. So it's kind of like 3 different major damage mechanics, and you can't have cooldowns up for all of them. And so at some point, you just keep on burning your mana bar away, and you don't really have like an outlet to solve that problem. Besides just, get an Innervate or Source Magic or something like that to help.
Okay. Where do you think that ends up on like the letter ranking? Like you had Disc at the top of C only because the reference of Holy Paladin being in B.
Yeah. So Holy Pally's in B for M plus as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'd be putting like Holy Priest just ahead of Disc in like late C tier, but I think that there's like a couple other healers that are better than both Priest specs for M plus right now.
Okay.
So we might be stacking the C tier a bunch.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, fuck it. We will Okay, Ellesmere. Well, we'll talk to Ellesmere after, and we maybe make some changes. But also, not to mention, going into this is, I wanted to get this out before early access, but also, like in a situation like this, we're gonna have to change this going into the season because it's like the season is literally more than a month from now. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's do we can do Mistweaver or Resto Shaman, whichever.
Let's do some Mistweaver.
All right, sweet. How has Mistweaver survived the pruning?
It didn't seem like they got a lot of pruning, and in some cases they kind of just like picked winners and losers for talents. Like Jade Empowerment is one where your Crackling Jade Lightning will do extra damage, and it does more healing and stuff. They decided they were like done with that, don't want to deal with it, made it really bad. There was some like bug on beta for a while where it did like way more damage than it was supposed to. Kind of led some like false hope for a bit, but they kind of picked like some winners and losers, but there wasn't really like a ton of overall like pruning going for the spec compared to others.
Okay. Do you think what about gameplay wise? I know personally I've followed like Megaset saying like no one should ever play Monk in the upcoming expansion. Then I think that changed with some changes. Like have you followed that at all? Is Mistweaver fun to play right now?
Yeah, so I was talking to Meg a bunch, and I also talked to the Wowhead writer Swirl about it as well. So shout out them. Monk's really fun to play now,
Oh, cool.
and it actually does like really, really good healing in dungeons. And so it's not perfect, like it has some really big weak spots, but it is much, much better in terms of its healing than it used to be. It's really strong against rot damage, like ticking damage, because it has this talent called Mist Line, where your renewing mist is 500% more healing on your lowest health target. So if somebody's low, it'll kind of jump around and keep on pushing up health bars and help you even out healing a lot more, which is awesome.
Okay.
You have honestly like Conduit of the Celestials feels a lot better. That's your hero talent. That feels a lot more real in terms of the healing that it's bringing to you, which is awesome. And I like how the Way of the Crane setup works at the moment, because you basically are extending your renewing mists really long. That's helping your rot damage, your rot healing. Your Way of the Crane is your damage to healing conversion. It's like your spinning crane kick turns into healing, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels really valuable on high targets. And so you feel like Way of the Crane gives you really strong sustained healing. Being able to extend like enveloping mist on players can help you do more prio healing and help you deal with like expected upcoming big single target damage and dots. The downside is that you do really poorly against burst damage. And that's where the competing talent Way of the Serpent kind of comes in, which allows you to Soothing Mist on the move and kind of switch targets really freely. And you do more casted healing out of like your Vivify or Shayloon's Gift, which Vivifies your single target heal, and Shayloon's is like the upgraded version of it that also does AoE healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically you can choose to be better at burst, or you can choose to be better at sustained, but you can't do both the way other healers can.
Oh yeah, that's like the this is like the healer version of DPS specs that have to talent into AoE rather than just getting it for free. I haven't heard of that being a thing before. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's really, really irritating because the consistent healing is a lot more common than burst. So, Seed of the Triumvirate's the best example, because the final boss is just almost pure ticking damage. But then you go to that Viceroy fight I mentioned earlier, and it's a lot of burst, and it's a huge impact to not have those tools when you need them.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the big things that Meg wanted to talk about was how you're kind of like one talent point short with both of them to have like a coherent build, because there's a lot of like mandatory talent options ahead of you. And so when you're kind of missing one extra talent point, it makes it a lot more difficult for the build to like actually kind of cover all your weak spots.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're like, I mean, maybe that's not too far away. Like, there have been a decent amount of changes classes have gotten in the last couple expansions where like a patch note comes out and it's like, oh, we just gained a talent point, or we gained 2 spec points or something. And you're saying Mistweaver, if they were to get a change like that, would benefit a lot by gaining like a talent point or 2.
Yeah, and or even just like, this talent gets moved up from the like bottom row where you can only spend 10 points or whatever it is, and we've instead moved it up to a middle row, and so you can get it more easily, and like that could just amp up the spec and buff it a ton.
Yeah. Okay. How do you feel Mistweaver will do in raid, and do you think there will be one in the race world first?
I think it'll be like good healing, but same kind of story with Holy Priest of like, you're not bringing enough to the table to warrant it into race to world first. Like a balanced healer doesn't get brought to world first. You have to be like busted in terms of output or necessary for like a raid buff.
Yeah.
And Brewmaster's really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
So you feel like they might lose out because of that?
Yeah. And I think that there's not any sort of like healing profile that would also help them have some special niche edge over other people either.
Okay, so where would you
So
put
it's
them
not
then?
like the doom and gloom you had mentioned before, but it's still not like enough to put them over the top.
So I'm assuming it's like behind priest and B.
Yeah, I think so, because I think you have stamina, which I feel like would be more useful, but there are some like good Shadow Priest fights. But also, you just bring PI to the table, and so like there's one little extra thing that can help kind of push
Yeah.
you.
Well,
further
also
than,
it sounds like you think there might be a priest in the race, and it sounds like you don't think there's going to be a Mistweaver. So maybe it is a tier below that, I guess.
Yeah, I think that could be fair too. You could drop it down another one.
Yeah, you're basically like, do you want to drop it down a level basically just because of a raid buff? Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. All right, fuck it, we'll do it. What about Mythic Plus for the spinner?
Monk has elite levels of healing, great defensives, is very outshined by Brewmaster, and deals with burst damage very poorly. I think it's better than both priest specs, worse than paladin.
Okay, better than both priest specs, worse than paladin. So it is in. Is it behind paladin and B or above priest and C?
I'd say it's above priest and C.
Cool. Okay, easy. All right, and then now maybe the most pruned spec, or one of the most. At least that was the initial narrative. I haven't followed it since then. Where did Shaman end up at the end of all of this pruning stuff?
So boring. So boring.
Yeah.
Like, actually crazy, because not only, you're correct that like they over pruned it, but also they didn't make all your other spells feel good. Like, if you're gonna gut out a bunch of extra stuff, then everything that remains should feel good or useful or have situations for it. And that's just not the case right now. You play Farseer Shaman, and there's no earthly reason to use Healing Rain. I tried it in a dungeon, and it did less healing than like my Unleash Life, which is, a 15-second cooldown you
Wow.
press. It does like almost no healing. And, the Healing Rain was just doing nothing. Chain Heal does almost the exact same healing as a Healing Wave, but I believe it costs more, and it's also spreading out the healing between like 4 or 5 targets, so it doesn't feel like health bars are moving at all when you cast the spell.
That doesn't sound very good. So it sounds like very negative, very boring to play. Okay, I feel like the classes that have been loud about this, which I believe Resto Shamans have been,
Yeah.
the DPS classes have actually gotten a decent amount of changes to have them be less boring. At least a few of them. It's really interesting that they're not backing down on the Resto Shaman thing. They're just like, this is just what it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think it's almost that like shamans don't have hope. Okay? And so hear me out on this one. Hear me out. I know it sounds bad, but paladins have been pretty unhappy with how they've been playing for a long time. I think that Dragonflight and War Within, I think paladins have had like, it's mediocre, or I'm like slightly unhappy at best, right? And now they got like a sniff of like, we're really good. And so the second they start making like the judgment changes, people are all over them. The second the Imperial Legacy changes come out, they're all over them. And then, Blizzard made a change for the judgment stuff, the Crusader Strike stuff, I should say. Sorry, that's what I meant. And I think that they're going to relent on the Imperial Legacy stuff. I hope I'm right. Like, clip it if I'm wrong or whatever. But I think that Paladins are going to win again because they got the hope, and they're just going to be so loud and keep pounding, Blizzard's door until they make a change. And I don't think Shamans have had much hope, because there's been a lot of times they've been unhappy with how the playstyle has been, and like nothing really happens. They're playing like Riptide Whispering Waves and Mana Forge Omega, basically pressing like 2 or 3 buttons, and it's like, oh, well, I guess that's just how we play now. All right.
Do you think that shamans maybe, and I'm coming up with this on the spot, it just occurred to me, but do you think they struggle from not really having a guy? Like every other healer spec has a guy. They have someone that if this spec is in a really bad spot, literally everyone in the WoW community, like it or not, is going to hear about it on Twitter because they're so upset about it, right? Like Ellesmere plays Paladin, you play Priest, JB plays Resto Druid, some other ones are escaping my mind, but like Like I feel
Yeah.
like every other person, every other one has that, and I think Resto Shaman has a few. Like Thune, I think like comes to
We
mind, but he's not as big as a creator. He doesn't have, and he's also not as doomer. Like I don't think.
Thune's gone.
Oh, he's
Thune's
gone.
gone.
Oh, and he oh he's did he quit?
Yeah, he's quit. He's done. He got a farm upstate.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I mean, he's in here right now saying I quit. Cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you have him, and I'm sure there's some other ones, but like they don't at least come across my feed, and my feed is not very WoW centric. But all the other healers ones that I don't know how many, I don't follow almost anyone on Twitter, so like they come across it, and I wonder if that matters. That I don't know if Resto Shamans have like a loud enough beacon to where when they're complaining, it's heard by everyone.
Yeah. We need Lauren. He is the big shaman goat. We need him with a bigger spotlight.
Yeah, yeah. Poor shamans, man. Okay, so that's about feel, but that's about feel. What about power? How strong do you think they will be, like in raid specifically? They have a raid buff you need, right?
They do. They do have a good raid buff. I'm not sure how enhanced and Ellie are, but I think there's like an outside chance that Resto Shaman could be like a fourth healer. But the thing with World First though is that most of the time you don't bring 4 unique healers. You bring like, double disc or double prez, then you bring 2 raid buffs or 2 powerful other unique healers. So
Yeah.
I don't think you're bringing 4 unique healers. If you did, you could probably enter Shaman into that conversation. But I think that they're kind of like an outside case. So I'm not really expecting it. Maybe Slink would be all right for that Paladin fight with absurd amounts of healing orbs that they were putting out onto people. But you were also moving and spreading a lot. So I didn't find any fight where I'm like, wow, like Spirit Link would be like insane here or something.
I mean, Spirit Link. There's like one fight in expansion where Spirit Link is like absolutely broken, and outside of that one fight on average, it is a very overrated raid cooldown. It's fine. So yeah, I don't know if that'll be the case, but it's unlikely. Like I think there's a lot of people going into a tier where they're like, but you're gonna need Slink, and that's just hasn't been true for like a very long time.
Right. It needs to be busted.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when it is good, it's just like the only thing in the game that can do that. It's just like you very rarely actually need that, and people overrate the value of what it does in general. But okay, so Resto Shaman, you think outside chance of being a fourth healer maybe, but it sounds like you're putting it below every healer so far. Maybe it sounds like below Mistweaver in your opinion.
I'd put it ahead of Mistweaver, but
is that just because you think that there's definitely already a monk buff in the raid and you're not sure about Shaman?
I think that there's definitely a monk buff in the raid already. I literally am like fully ignorant about Shaman, but I mean, I'd be shocked if there wasn't like a DPS Shaman. I feel like they usually make one good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't read chat right now, so maybe everyone's like, oh my god, Enhance or Ellie is good or something like that. I just got no clue. But I think it's more likely you'd bring a Resto Shaman than like a Mistweaver.
Okay. All right, we could do that. So yeah, just above Mistweaver in C then, or do you think below the Priest in B?
Let's put it like below the Priest in B, I guess.
Okay. What about Mythic Plus? Even worse?
So Shaman's like really cooldown centric, and I think that works against them really hard in M+, where they bring a great buff. They have a kick, it's 30 seconds, it has some decent value to it. But they're also really single target healing based. And so in situations where you have to deal with burst damage, you basically have to rip Ascendance. I know some people have been messing around with Healing Tide Totem. It's been a while since I played with that one. But they made like your Ascendance like double tap, where it crits your target, and then it does a full strength hit to another ally. And so that feels like super powerful, but then outside of Ascendance, it feels like super, super weak. And so you only have a couple tools in your toolbox to really deal with damage. I was running Totemic one time, and it felt like healing was good, and the downpour talent where everyone stands in your healing rain and you could pop extra healing felt good, but if people are spread, it just like was a disaster. So I think that it's in a position where like maybe it's kind of similar. I would say it's maybe a bit better than like Holy Priest, but in some situations I think it's worse than like Monk when it comes to your healing checks.
Okay, so it kind of, I mean, it can just perfectly slide in right there in between those two.
Yeah, where does that put it? Like, is that the B or C tier?
It's in C tier, yeah. But it
Okay.
seems like everything in C is just knocked down because Holy Paladin is in B. It's, at least if I'm reading between the lines that you feel like Holy Paladin should be higher, and then those things might be in B. Well, we can adjust that at some point if that ends up being the case.
I think Holy Paladins are really like righteously upset about how the playstyle is going to get worse, but I still think the power level of like the spec is pretty high.
Okay. Yeah, W. All right, cool. And that's all I need. Have fun at your friend's house for dinner on Valentine's Day.
Sounds good. Love you.
All right, love you too. Bye, babe. Oh, fuck. I got rattled. He fucking said it first. I just like halfway said bye. I didn't even do it. I fucking got owned, man. That's called getting cooked, fellas. Okay, we're gonna talk to someone new named UT. That Jack recommended to me. What's with Prez? Oh, we just haven't talked about it yet. Although, from every hero that's talked so far, they've had some off-the-cuff comments like, it's not as good as Prez, so it sounds like people are super high on, Prez for whatever reason. Got some fans. We have fans. All right, let me call this guy. Prez is Giga and Raid, Dogshit and Mythic Plus. Hope this helps. Dude, hasn't that been, if that's true, isn't that like Prez's bit? Now, like that's just like what it is. I feel like preservation has just been like, it's like every other tier, they're completely absurd. When was the first year they came out? Vault of the Incarnates. I mean, Prez and Vault of the Incarnates, absolutely crazy. I don't think they were good in the next raid, and I don't remember in Amir Drasil. But then the expansion after that, Narrowbar Palace, they're maybe even better than they were on release. And then last year, they were not as good, I don't think, as Narrowbar Palace, but they've been... Basically, Preservation Evoker has been out for 6 tiers now. And they have been double stacked in 3 of them. So there's a 50% chance they're a good enough healer to where it's the singular healer spec you choose to bring multiple of. That's a pretty good rate. That's like a ridiculous rate, right? Like that's not true of like any other spec. That's basically like Disc Priest and Holy Paladin until the end of Shadowlands and like every expansion before that. Okay, calling this dude. Max 100% another double Prez tier in the next raid. You think so? I will say, of all of the pre-raid community takes of like what's going to be good, what's going to be bad, the one that's been gotten wrong more than any other role, and it's not remotely close, is healer. Like, I swear every tier that comes out, like the popular healer tier list from creators, as far as like what is going to be brought, is like, at least in raid, is like completely upside down. It's just always wrong. And that's even like deep into an expansion when you'd expect like you'd have a better idea of that. All right, I'm calling this guy. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I'm trying to get your volume good. I think you are good. Yeah, is that your cat in the picture with the glasses?
That is my cat. He is quite a sweetheart.
How'd you get the glasses on him? Does he need those to see?
Honestly, I don't know how the glasses got there. It's not a picture that I took, so.
I mean, chat needs to see the picture. That's fine. 1 second.
I've got lots of pictures for you if you really care. He's adorable.
Bro, look at his cat. Dude's got the fucking Harry Potter goggles on. Holy shit. All right, cool. All right, so we're gonna talk about Prez. So I'm actually really
Love
interested to hear like what is different about how it plays, because I think Prez was like a reason that Disc has felt bad for the past couple years, because Disc used to be like the big burst healing class, and Prez, among a few other specs, but I think was the main one where it's just like, oh, okay, you're just not the only class that can do that anymore. I can just do the ramp thing if I want to. Plus, I also have another build that's different. Does it still do that? How does Prez feel after the pruning, and if in any way, how was Prez affected by the pruning, positively or negatively?
Yeah, so Prez got a lot of major pruning. To start, we lost 2 major healing cooldowns. Along with that, we lost a empower cooldown, empower spell in the Spirit Bloom, and we also lost Lifebind, which was like our big way to just instantly chunk the entire raid whenever we felt like it. However, we got our Apex, which has been nerfed by 50% multiple times. But it is still probably by far the best Apex talent in the entire game. By far. The spec,
What does it do?
So there's 3 parts to it. The first part is Marithra's Blessing, which we call Bloom. So essentially, it just overwrites your reversion, and when you cast it, it casts reversion at all the targets that are echoed to start, and then it does this burst of 4 bolts onto targets. So you hit somebody, it bounces around in smart healing. So you can just echo the entire raid, use Marithra's Blessing, and it's smart healing, and it just bounces everywhere and hits the entire raid, and it does a turbo amount of healing. And to go with that, since it's applying reversion on everybody, the second part of our Apex makes people that have reversion on them take less damage and also heal back the damage they take. So if you take 100 damage, you're going to take 1 less damage and also heal back 1 damage. So we kind of got a pseudo fake raid buff in that sense. To go with that as well, with echoing reversion, we also have something called Golden Hour. People talk about how Rewind is super broken, and it is still by far the best cooldown, even after the recent nerfs. But Golden Hour is basically just Rewind at a very low percent every time we press reversion on a target. So with health bars going way up, us being promoted to constantly be ramping out these big reversion ramps, we do a lot of healing in raid.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. How do you feel about? Okay, so sounds like it has a couple strong interactions. They've been a big beneficiary of the Apex talents more than other specs. But what about gameplay? Is it fun to play? Is this a fun version of Prez to play?
I personally am a huge hater of reversion, but with how Marithra's Bloom works and how it kind of works with the kit in general, it kind of brings life to reversion. Even though reversion does these 15,000 different things, the Apex brings a lot of life to it, and it feels very, very good to play. You put out all these echoes, you consume it with reversion. Reversion gives you essence bursts, and you can start your next ramp and just go right back into it. So it's just flowing. And it feels very, very good to play.
Sweet. Okay. So you mentioned it in raid. Am I getting the vibe that you're going to put this at the very top of the raid tier list?
Oh yeah. So if you talked about this before the nerfs that just happened recently, which are technically more buffs than they are nerfs, Rewind used to be a 2-minute cooldown. It was by far the most broken cooldown, bar none. Nothing came close to it. Now it's a 3-minute cooldown, still the most powerful cooldown in the game. And that just made us have the also second most powerful cooldown in the game. With Dreamflight is extremely powerful. People are going to gasp at that one, but that spell is disgustingly strong as well. So before the nerfs, you probably would have absolutely seen 2 Prez, maybe potentially 3, just because the spec is so stupid busted. And the earlier you're doing fights, the more healing it does, because it's the only healer that scales with damage taken. A lot of what we do, our healing increases the more damage we take, which sounds stupid, but we straight up scale with it. We don't need extra gear to do more healing if the fight does more damage. So after the nerfs, probably still going to see double pres. I'm not going to lie to you, unless there's a fight that has a ton of healing resorbs like Paladins, where you might drop a pres for a disc. But absolutely, this spec is crazy style in Raid, and I'm super, super excited to play it.
Oh, sweet. Okay. What about Mythic Plus?
Oh, and then we get to Mythic Plus. The worst part of the week is doing my dungeons. This spec historically has always been really bad in dungeons, and unfortunately, our Apex doesn't super help that. The Apex has a small bug interaction right now, but even if it got fixed, it wouldn't help a ton in Mythic Plus. The spec has always been extremely bursty. You know, you rely on your cooldowns, so you get punished outside of your cooldowns. And now we've had our main bread and butter of Lifebind and Spirit Bloom removed, which is 90% of what Mythic Plus relied on. So the spec, it's when people play the spec, they always feel that they're kind of running on fumes. They're running out of gas. And that still exists, and it can feel even worse now. You have buttons, but if your buttons don't do the healing, you have nothing else. We don't have a way to spend our mana to do the healing that we need to do in Mythic Plus. Like, Druids can hit regrowth, and they just top the entire group per regrowth cast. Disc kind of has the same feeling, but Prez is just even worse about it. Spec does no damage. Spec doesn't have a meaningful raid buff. Not even a remotely decent raid buff in Mythic Plus for it to ever be considered in the healing spot. There's no benefits to bring it. There is, okay, I don't want to say no, because there is one benefit that a lot of people don't know about and are not talking about. Prez can have double TD, so you can have 2 charges of TD on a 50-second cooldown. And then now, since Renewing Blaze has been baked into Obsidian Scales with the talent Life Cinders in the Flame Shaper tree, you can give Obsidian Scales to somebody else. And that also gives them the Renewing Blaze. So technically, if Prez did enough healing, like if we were by far the highest damage healer and had the resources that we needed to do the healing that these dungeons require, I think Prez would be absolutely disgusting. And just out of the fact that we have 4 externals, like 4 meaningful good externals, is something that I don't think any class has ever seen before. But unfortunately, the spec just falls short. Like, a lot of these dungeons require you to just be able to bomb healing into one person, and that's just not the spec for this. It would require almost an entire overhaul of the spec for it to be ever like remotely considered in Mythic Plus.
Yeah, I feel like they're like the Blood DKs of healers, where they're just like kind of fundamentally not good at the content.
Yeah. So we had one tier, season 1 of Dragonflight, when we were like 80% overtuned over the next healer, and people still didn't want to play Prez in Mythic Plus. So that tells you all you really need to know about Prez in Mythic Plus.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for the time. I'll keep you as a resource for future Prez stuff, because I don't really. There's not a lot of people that have like seen themselves like a Prez main, and probably because it's so recent. But all right, cool. Is that what you
love
do?
This spec. Yeah, I absolutely love this spec to death. It's so unique.
Yeah, it sounds
it's
like
so different than every other spec. So it's been a pleasure. It was nice meeting you.
Wait,
Do you ever have any questions?
Yeah, actually,
wait.
Where did you actually want to rank it? Because you said it was bad.
So like, you know how you have all the healers in C tier right now?
Yeah.
There should be a D tier, and then there should be an F tier, and then Midnight Default behind that, and then you put Prez in Midnight Default.
Oh, okay.
It's not even close to any other healer. Yeah. So
I'm glad I could make use of that category. I like the name. All right, but it's there, and you wish it was even more tiers away from the other healers.
Yeah. So.
All right, cool. All right, thanks for talking to me, man. All right, see you
later. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Love you.
Oh, he started to say it, but he got fucking absolutely slaughtered. Smoked, kid. Oh, hi, buddy. He actually knows. Did you know I just talked to the last person? Okay. Hi. Does anyone else have a what breed Reptar is? A blackmouth cur. Does anyone else have a dog that's mixed with that? Or a purebred blackmouth cur? It's unlikely. They're like farm dogs. And they're not like a popular breed people get. You do? Bro. So apparently it's a breed thing, but they like sing and they're very vocal dogs. But he just like, bro, you can just like make a noise, like a pitch, a high pitch, and he'll just mirror it and just start guttural screaming the pitch. It's the crazy. I don't even want you guys to hear it because it is like, it's like life altering, bro. He like huskies, yeah, but it's not like a howl. It's like a. Also, he has this issue where he gets very excited very easily. Like when he sees a dog on the other side of the street. He like is so excited to potentially say hi to that dog that he just starts screaming. And I don't mean barking. He literally screams. And it sounds like I'm abusing him. So for me to teach him how to not scream, I don't want to reprimand him because I don't want to have people around me see that I'm like telling him no as he's screaming. Because then it's going to sound like me doing that is why he's screaming and I actually am abusing my dog. So, bro, I'm trying to figure this shit the fuck out, but he is a loud boy, dude. He is loud. Love him, though. He's a little baby. He still has puppy face, too. You can see here. Reptar, come here. Reptar, come here, buddy. He's like over 2 years old now, but he still is like so puppy-faced. Are you a little pup? Are you a puppy? Yeah. Yeah, you're a little pup. He's a little baby dog. Very sweet. And he got a bath recently. He smells very good. Anyways, we'll finish the rest. Oh, he heard me say anyways. Oh, God. He knows. We're going to finish the rest of this tomorrow with DPS men. My mom gets here at like 3 p.m., so I might have to start the stream a little early to try to get... And I honestly might have to, like, finish the rest of it on a different day. Because I have, like, a hard cutoff of picking my mom up from the airport. Or I have to go faster, and I think I'd rather be more thorough. I don't like... I like how thorough these can be sometimes. So because of that, I don't want to, like... I've done this before where I've also been in a rush where I've like kind of rushed past some specs, and I feel like if you were a main of that spec, if you tuned into that part, you maybe weren't happy with that. So I might like cut it into 2 more days, maybe do like a melee and a range or something. But the only problem is I can't really stream like past tomorrow. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Lily's jealous. Yeah, she's sweetie. Come here, baby girl. Hello. Okay, I'm going to peace out. See you guys tomorrow.